Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for yet another Chelsea transfer news stream, as well as our big Euro 2024 prediction. Obviously, the Euros in Germany starting tomorrow night with the opening game between Germany and Scotland, but we were supposed to be mostly focusing on that today, but then David Ornstein had other plans and released some fairly big breaking news, which obviously we do need to discuss. Of course, in the last stream, we were already talking about, is Olise coming? Well, now it looks a bit more likely, but at the same time, also less likely. So we will discuss that and see where exactly Chelsea stand and everything. And also, expecting you in a full kit. Well, here's the Austria kit, here's the Chelsea kit. You know, I thought we'll mix it up. We mix it up, we get both involved. Dimitar, I'll start with you. Thank you for coming back on. I appreciate it. Before we get into the Euro stuff, let's focus on Chelsea and the transfer news from that perspective. Before focusing on Olise specifically, though, you, me, a couple of other people in the chat, we've had our issues in terms of, like, some of us are happy, some of us are not happy, some of us try to look at the positives, some of us are kind of can't be bothered anymore to look for positives because we've spent the last 2 years doing that. So where do you stand on it? Because for me, and I know I said not specifically on Olise. Oh, the badge got changed. There we go. He got Denmark involved as well. Olise is at least one player where I think almost all of us would at least be reasonably happy if we do get that done. All the other ones are always a bit hit and miss, aren't they? So where do you still stand on Chelsea's transfer policy? Especially, you know, we decided against Osimhen. Then we tried to go for Seshko, but that didn't work out. So now we're going for Jhon Duran, who's the backup striker at Aston Villa.
I generally think it doesn't make sense, and we all know that. My ideal transfer policy would be just to bring in experience at a reasonable price. Even though money has nothing to do with us fans, we always want players who are not super expensive, or at least that's me, because the price tag matters, and the price tag has a very, very, very heavy burden on some players. And I personally think Olise transfer fee is relatively fine. The question is, first, can we afford him? And two, does he bring any experience to the team? And I guess no, in my opinion. I mean, I wouldn't mind the transfer, but I still don't see how this makes us any better for top four, if that makes sense, because I think we still lack the experience needed for that, and that should be our goal. Otherwise, if we're talking specific skills, Olise is very, very good. He had a fantastic back end to the season. I watched him dismantle Manchester United, and that was very fun to see, like maybe 2 months ago. But yeah, I don't think we need him. If we get him and manage to shift, let's say, Sterling, I think that would be the best case scenario. But if we keep Sterling, if we buy Olise, then I think it's going to be too many players fighting for the same spots, and that could probably hurt Noni and Mudryk in the long term. But yeah, like I said, I don't like the policy in general.
I hear it. Now, Ashraf made a comment here. Olise is in his fourth, or I'm not sure if he had his fourth season or would be going into his fourth season. I'm not sure.
He will have, he will
so
be going into the fourth season.
Than a lot of the others, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
I guess there is a little positive to that. Yeah, no, I don't even fully disagree with you. It's an interesting one. I do want to actually touch on that. Do we need him? Because that is an interesting conversation that has been, going on in the fan base, because that is, on the one hand, you're kind of like, well, he's a very good player, so obviously we need him because we're not that good. But on the other hand, it's like all the other players that are already coming in that position who are, sure, younger, but not that much younger. We'll get to it later. Bertram, I'll come to you first. First of all, thank you for being back on. Like I said, this was mainly supposed to be a Euro stream. Now we have a lot of Chelsea stuff to talk about as well. I know you're excited about both. So where do you stand on the transfer policy of Chelsea? Again, obviously touch on Olise if you want to, but Olise, the crazy thing about it, under the old ownership, Olise would have been the young signing we make. While, the others would be the experienced, expensive, big name statement signings. Now getting a guy from Crystal Palace, that's our statement signing. So obviously football has also moved on a little bit. Like, there's less clubs other than Real Madrid, really, that run around trying to sign the big names from the other big clubs. That doesn't really happen as much anymore as it maybe used to. Partly to do with only English clubs have money. No one else does except Real Madrid. But obviously the other problem is also that even those clubs that do have money, because of financial fair play, profit and sustainability rules, but also just, world crisis with, COVID, financial crisis. No one really has the money to just spend 150 million on players left, right, and centre anymore, except us, obviously. And we spend it all on 21-year-old 150 million pound players. But now we've slightly moved on from that, seemingly. I don't think we're signing anyone over 100 million this summer. We decided against Osimhen, so that's not happening. But people like Duran, and also Tosin, like we haven't really spoken about him to a great extent in the last team, but we're replacing Thiago Silva, one of the greatest defenders in history, with a free agent from Fulham. And I'm not even saying he's that bad of a footballer. I'm not saying he's that bad, but you're still replacing Thiago Silva. And people say, oh, we're replacing Chalobah. Well, talk about it whatever you want. Tosin will most likely play central centre-back where Thiago used to play. So if anything, you're directly replacing Thiago Silva. And that's my worry, because people are all excited. Next season, new manager, top 4. We got 6 now, so next season we must be better. I'm like, yeah, but we're losing experience. And even Dimitar touching it there. Dimitar says he wants experience, but the one player he mentioned as potentially selling is the most expensive, most experienced players we have left in Sterling. So, and I don't even disagree with you, but I'm just saying that's where all the confusion for me comes from. Because on the one hand, I want experience. On the other hand, the experienced players we have in Sterling now is one of those players that most of us are most willing to let go of, if anything. But is that just because we signed more in his position more recently? Maybe that's that. But where do you stand on a transfer policy? Where do you stand on Tosin coming in, Duran potentially for up to 40 million, before we get into Olise after that?
Yeah, well, I've never really understood the discourse when it comes to these signings, to be honest with you. I think if you look just primarily based on the player, which I think sometimes we struggle to do, I think if you look at, Olise the player, we can all agree he's a fantastic player. I think we could all look at the, player Tosin is as well and agree he has some good qualities. I've never understood this, especially on Twitter as well, when you're looking at, and as you said there, we're replacing Thiago Silva with Tosin Adebayo. When you say it like that, of course, it sounds like a downgrade. But if you look at the position Thiago Silva had last season, the minutes we gave him, and compare that to, the minutes Tosin Adebayo got, I think it's a reasonable signing. I think it's on a free. I think he gives us something valuable. But I think there's this whole discourse of, back in 2012, we won the Champions League. We spent X amount of money on Eden Hazard. Now we're going to spend more money from, on a guy from Crystal Palace. Of course, when you say it like that, it doesn't, sound good. But imagine if Liverpool fans had said the same thing, in the summer when they're saying, okay, our midfield revamp, we're going to spend, a lot. We're going to play the release clause from, on a guy from Brighton who turned out to be McAllister, who was very good. Or if we'd said the same thing with Caicedo, I think it's important, especially in, this, current time of football, to just look at the facts and say, okay, he's a center back for Fulham. No way he can reach Thiago Silva's level. Or, he plays for Crystal Palace and he's going to be our main signing this summer. I don't really buy into that logic. But I think you need to look at the players. And I think if you look at the players, right now that we've already bought, we have or gotten, Tosin. I think he's a very, very valuable player. Good passing out from the back. Gives us something we lack. Has Premier League experience, which I think we all, wanted last season. I think if we bought more players last season with Premier League experience, we wouldn't have been that inconsistent. Tosin Adebayo, he's already been to all the stadiums. He lives the same place. I think you can't really put a price on that. And I think the same for Olise.
But then you look at how Sterling's and Cucurella's first season went, and you're like, does Premier League experience really help in the first season?
But I think you sometimes need to just look into other aspects. I think for Sterling and Cucurella, you need to look at the time we bought them. Sterling was good.
I'm just trying to play devil's advocate. I'm not saying.
Of course, yeah. I think with those two players, I think it's not always Premier League proven means that they just go into the team immediately and just function. I'm just saying that I think this summer, appearance last, we're going for this Premier League proven quality. I think we're gonna get a player in. We're gonna get players who are Premier League proven. I think we're gonna get them for a good price as well. I think I would rather us spend 40 million. I'll come on to Duran in a bit than I would 100 million on Osimhen. I think when it comes to their recruitment, we can criticize the ownership a lot, but one thing they have got right pretty much is the recruitment. I think you look at the recruitment overall, the players we've brought in have made the team better. I think you look at some of our hits, Caicedo, Malo Gusto, stuff like this.
Made better compared to who? To the players we had before, or what do you mean?
I mean, in the sense that if we just take last season, for example, right?
Mhm.
We can look at the fact that the players we brought in are an upgrade to, these Premier League proven players. I would
Mhm.
argue that a Caicedo has played better than, Jorginho has these last couple of seasons, especially for us. You look at a player like Nicholas Jackson, a player who came, fresh from the Spanish league, his first real season, replaced our, Kai Havertz, who played, 3 seasons for us. And, for us, at least played better. So I think, in general, our signings
But
have been
that's where
quite
you're
good.
done, though. That's where you're done with the examples of players that have done better. Like the Caicedo Jorginho one, maybe Dimitar may not fully agree. I understand some people will. That's fair enough. But it's fair enough. It's certainly a somewhat reasonable thought to have. Right?
But I suppose
other than Palmer, Jackson, and Caicedo, name me more. Right? Like
Palmer, Jackson, Caicedo.
Everyone is worse than what we had.
I would be able to
the ones that came
argue.
through our own academy, which are Levi Colwill and Reece James. Everyone else is worse than who we had before.
Well, I would argue we have Petrovic. I would at least argue had been an upgrade upon
on Willy Caballero, he might be an upgrade. But like...
I kept him before. We can all agree that we don't know about Lavia.
It's true. We don't know, but that's part of the problem.
I think Andre Santos as well. We could argue.
But who do you compare him to, right? We just didn't have.
I understand, and the thing about these signings is they're not meant to hit the ground running.
Yeah.
Some of them have, which have been, very valuable for us. But I would still argue that, in my opinion, at least, I think the players we've bought have, in general, been quite good. I wouldn't say we've had any real bad signings from last season. We might have some which we sell on for profit. That's something else. But I wouldn't say we have any bad signings. And I think, we've all seen the Joe Shields, we've all seen his name being mentioned to these signings. He's the real reason we got Lavia, who we can all agree is a very good player, and we're, very excited to look forward to seeing. Cole Palmer as well, players like this. I would argue that they at least have, I would give them the chance again this summer, buying Premier League proven. And I think for the prices that, we're being quoted at a buy on a free, Olise on the cheap, for Premier League proven experience and, good players as well, I would argue this is good business. And I think for Duran as well, which I know there's, not quite that good discourse for as well. I think that's, for 40 million, we look at the talent ID that our sporting directors, undoubtedly has.
More than we paid for
good
Jack.
price. Well, but we're buying from the Premier League as well. We need to factor that in.
He started 3 games. Like,
yeah,
but
undoubtedly, of course not. But undoubtedly he has quality. And I think if you just look at 40 million, big number. I can understand that completely, large number. But I'm just arguing our scouts, whatever you think of them, they have good talent ID. Even for those 3 games he started, he's been very good when he's come on. We've seen some very good goals against some very good teams as well. And I think he fills a role in which we kind of need it with, if we kind of value that, or if we say that Fofana isn't going to be, who we give a chance, or if we sell Broja, I think it might be a fair bit of business. Let's say we sell Broja for what we were quoted at, 30 million. If we buy in an upgrade for 40 mil,
but is he an upgrade?
At least give him a chance. I suppose we don't know, but I think,
like, did Broja in his loan season at Southampton not look better than Duran at Villa last year?
Maybe, but he got an injury, and
last
season he didn't look as good.
That's fair enough.
He didn't look as good now. But I'm just saying, I would always rather have us not look at, not say, okay, we're buying a Villa striker who's started 3 games. I understand we need to factor that in. I would just say, okay, we're buying for 40 mil a young striker who has, proved very good, very lethal finisher, or, imagine, for example, the season under Lampard. If we'd said, okay, right now next season we're going to start a right back who's played for Wigan in midfield. You would have said,
but it's different when they're free, though, because you're not spending 40 million on them.
And also, might I say, we didn't have a choice that season. I mean, if we had a choice, if we didn't have a transfer ban, no one would have done that, because that was ludicrous to think about, to replace, let's say, Eden Hazard with Mason Mount and Tammy Abraham, and to play Reece James at right back, and to play Zuma, and to play Tomori. That would have sounded crazy, because it was. And we got lucky that they delivered. But you can't do crazy things every time and expect them to work out.
No,
can I just say something on the price tag? I don't think so many people are focused on the price tag. I think people are focused on the price tag because this guy, Duran, for example, he has about 25 starts in professional football, 20 of them in America, in the United States, 5 at Villa. And if you compare that to, let's say, Ivan Toney, who I'm very interested, why is no one talking about him this summer? I think Ivan Toney would be better suited for Chelsea now. If it's a realistic transfer, we don't know. But I don't know why people just assume that if someone is young, is 20, has a nice shot, is talented, that they will develop into a player. And I say this almost every day in our group chat. Just because someone is extremely talented doesn't mean that they will definitely deliver. If you guys remember, for example, Ansu Fati 2 or 3 years ago, he was quoted with 250, 300 million release clause, and where he is now, he got rejected by Brighton after his loan. So you can chase talent, but if all of you do, if all of what you're doing is chasing talent, then you are bound to hit some stinkers. And
that's,
we can't afford
pros and cons, isn't
a lot.
That's the pros and cons, isn't it? Because on the one hand, a lot of people like Cranky Pan says it here. We don't need, like, Olise is not who we need. You know, Olise is not that kind of player that we need, blah, blah, blah. But that's kind of the problem, because we're all slightly gambling on talent on all of the players. You need many of those to be sure at least a few of those work out. Because if you only get one in each position and then only 50% of them work out, well, then you have a half good team, half bad team. So you need to have 20 of those players so you can make sure you have a good team by the end. But
or just buy some players who will deliver a 7 out of 10 every week, because I believe every team needs some hardworking average players who are just really, really there, not because of their talent, but because they played like 5 years center back at West Brom, for example, and they proved themselves, and they could go to Chelsea and play a squad role. For example,
like a Nathan Ake at Man City, or like before that Zinchenko, or before that Fabian Delph, or like all of these players,
or even Gary Cahill for us back in the day. Like no one would have expected he would stay like 7-8 years in the team, win everything possible, and even captain the team during a Premier League title. And he was not the best center back at the club, but he did a job. And that's my issue in general. We just go for talent and we don't go for experience. And I really don't understand that.
Could I ask quickly what you guys' opinions on, you know, both Duran, but also the 3 targets that were, like, you know, Adebayo, Olise, and Duran?
It's a tricky one for me, right? So Duran, for Duran, for me, and I know Dimitar said that he doesn't think necessarily people are all looking at the price. I am to some extent, because I accept if we are planning to make Jackson the main striker for another season, because I think he's done good enough last season to arguably deserve that. And if you're then spending big on a striker to like play instead of him, well, then what a waste last year was. Do you know what I mean? Because then you played him as the starting striker for a year, made him better for really no reason for him to be a backup now. So I understand the whole not going, for example, for Osimhen. Makes sense to me. Then there's 2 options that you do for me. Either you give him competition or you buy a clear backup. But for me, Duran is too expensive to be a clear backup, but hasn't done enough to be real competition. Like, he might have the talent to be real competition, but realistically, will he? Like, how often is Maresca the manager? How long will it take until he even contemplates starting Duran over Jackson? Because he has a much bigger sample size to know what Jackson can do than what Duran can do. So, you know, there's another, obviously, rumor floating about that Tammy Abraham may or may not be available for around 20 million. I'm not saying I want us to sign Tammy Abraham, but I'm saying I would probably prefer Tammy Abraham for 20 million than I do Duran for 40 million. Because if you're going to spend money on a kind of competition or backup striker, and the main striker is already young, it would just make so much more sense to get a little bit more experience. The only problem that with what Dimitar said earlier in terms of try to get experience and someone that will give you a 7 out of 10 every week, the problem is those players are difficult to come by, especially in our position. Because in our position that we are in, all we are is a project. So the only players that we can really tempt to come are the young players. Because why would anyone that's 27 and good want to come here? And even if they would be even more expensive, because, you know, look at Bayern. How long have they been trying to sign João Palhinha from Fulham? They've been trying for the last year, and they're constantly failing because Fulham want more and more and more money. The reports recently are he might end up being the 2nd most expensive midfielder in that age bracket, where you're like, how on earth is some midfielder from Fulham potentially the second most expensive midfielder above 28? Like, that's mental. So that's kind of your reason why we don't sign many of those players, because they're even more difficult to get. But that doesn't mean you need to spend 40 million on Duran. Like, I understand, okay, we wanted Sesko, didn't work out, he extended his contract. Then your next option is Duran. Even if the scouts say that's your next option, does that mean you should spend 40 million on it? Like, I just don't see that. Especially go on.
Can I jump in quickly? I think if we're going back to the argument you had before about, getting these 7 out of 10 players, what if you switch that out with having, enough good players? So if we have, both a Jackson, as you pointed out, who is going to be our starting striker, let's say he gives us a 7 out of 10, most weeks. Why shouldn't we have a 40 million striker, to replace him? I think, in this day and age,
because
I think that's fair. To compete,
like, we have
him.
much bigger issues in other places to be spending 40 million on a backup striker. I feel like
it depends.
The thing is,
we have the money to spend anymore.
No one buys a 20-year-old backup because this guy also has to develop. This is the biggest example of what is wrong with our transfer policy. Is also the same goes for the Olise transfer. We bought, let's say, Noni and Jackson in the past 12 months. They were young, prospective, talented, everything, all of the buzzwords. We gave them for Noni 18 months, for Jackson 12 months. We made them better. We saw clear improvements. Are they perfect? No. But are they improving? Yes. And now, all of a sudden, how does it make sense, for example, if you're Noni Madueke, if the club signs Olise? What do you think to yourself? Okay, so last year I started, let's say, 20 games. I improved. I did this, and that. And now this year I'm going to be third choice right winger, for example, if we don't sell Sterling. Or if Palmer plays on the right. And the same goes for Jackson. Let's say we bought Sesko. And let's say we bought Sesko to start. Well, then what does Jackson think? Okay, I was 21 when these guys bought me. I improved. I scored 14 goals from open play, which is not easy to do in the Premier League. And then they replaced me with a younger player. I mean, where is the logic in that? Why? Because all of last summer, all of last season, what everyone was saying, this young team is meant to improve. This young team is for the next decade. This young team is blah, blah, blah. We have to suffer. Well, okay, we suffered. Some players improved. Some players did not. And now, regardless of that, we're just going to spend big money and replace them. Where is the logic?
If I could, I wouldn't see it as a replacement. So if we bought Duran, I wouldn't see it as a replacement.
No, I didn't mean Duran. I said Sesko in the case of Sesko, because Sesko was clearly a bigger target, and Duran is the second or third choice.
I would argue that from now on, the team dynamics might change, because if you look at last season, first we're riddled with injuries. We went through, the whole of January. I know it won't happen each year without Jackson because of, AFCON. I think if you look at next season already, we'd hope to go deep in both cups. We have the whole Premier League. We also have the Conference League, and in the summer we have to play the Club World Cup as well. So we're going to have to play an unprecedented amount of games. So I think in this case, it seems like what we're arguing is, firstly, we're arguing if we want a striker, if we need a striker or not. Secondly, the profile of them. I don't see that large a problem in us having, two younger strikers countering, a younger striker and an older striker. I think it can work. I think, of course, we've seen, Giroud. It was very, very nice to have, an older striker to be reliable. I also think if you look at City, they bought Haaland. What did they do when they bought Haaland? Just, the same summer they bought Haaland, they got Julian Alvarez. They don't play each game together as well, but they have that dynamics that can switch. So
yes, but sorry for interrupting you. City have that conundrum all in the striker position. We have that conundrum everywhere. Our three best midfielders are all under 21. We have two positions for that. We have two relatively young right backs. We have 3-4 relatively young wingers. We have 2-3 relatively young strikers. We have that same conundrum of two players of the relatively same age bracket competing for the same position. And that is hard to make out work, because let's say Jackson has a phenomenal season next year. Let's just assume that he scores 25 goals. Then whoever his backup is, he's going to play the Conference League. And if you invest 50-60 million in Sesko, in Duran, or 100 in Osimhen, that means that you just wasted that money, and you just wasted a year of that player's career. And the same can happen with Olise. We can buy Olise, he can be phenomenal for us, and then Noni Madueke plays 12 starts and 3 cameo appearances, and his season is over. And then 2 years later, when Olise is 26, we buy the next 20-year-old, and then the next one, and then the next one. And this is an absolutely illogical policy, and it cannot work, because also, how do you go to Chelsea if you know that in 2 years' time they're going to replace you with a younger version of yourself? Because also, all of these wingers that we're buying from South America who are 15, when are they going to play? I mean, this Estevao, CFCPys, these players, wingers, attacking midfielders, strikers, when are they going to play? Because if we assume that Palmer is now what, 22, in 5 years he will be in his prime, and in 5 years CFCPys will be 21, 22. He will need minutes. Estevao, he will be 20. He will need minutes. Where are these people going to play? And what motivation will they have if they know that their direct competition is not a 29-year-old player who we are phasing out? It's someone else basically in their prime. It does not make sense if you invest in only young players. It makes sense if you have, let's say, a squad of 25 and you have 5 jewel of the crown young players. You have 1 midfielder, 1 defender, 1 striker, for example, 1 winger. And then you can say, okay, we are going to develop these players, we're going to show them how it's done, and in 5 years' time, they will be the backbone of the team. But if every single person in your team is the next generation of superstars, then it doesn't work because you always have to replace them.
That I agree, and taking it back to Duran, my problem isn't because I agree with what Bertram is saying to some extent. I don't necessarily think in the situation that we're in, like yes, age matters, but obviously Jackson now it's not like we're trying to sign Jackson and Duran right now. We already have Jackson, and you already had that first season, right? And it's now about, do you get a backup or do you not? Even if you would like in an ideal world a Giroud type backup striker, even if that's nice and all to think about, give me an option that actually is like that even is even remotely close to as good as Giroud was at the time, right?
And it's cheap.
There's not many out there that.
Yeah, no, of course. But my issue is with the general policy. It's not with the names of the players. I have nothing against Duran, nothing against Olise, nothing against anyone. But is it good for that player for them to come to Chelsea? Is it good for Chelsea to have that player right now in that point of their career? That's my issue in general. But you are right.
And I hear that absolutely, and that is also the issue with the general structure that I have. I just don't think, in my mind, it applies so much at the striker position, because in a lot of the other positions where we're signing someone that's potentially equally as talented or maybe more talented as the younger backup. I don't really. I mean, some people like to hype up Duran at the moment. I don't really see that with Duran. I don't really see him as being better than Jackson, if I'm being honest. Like, he might turn out to be that way, but the way things sound, it's more likely that he'll, have issues like Maresca earlier this season, be going out when he's injured, then the manager drops him, and then you have those kind of issues left, right, center, rather than that you're actually going to have to worry about Jackson's feelings about not playing regularly. I think that's less of an issue. But if you're buying those potential issues along some talent and potential, why spend 40 million on it? Like, you can find players that are younger backups with potential for a lot less than 40 million. I just don't see the necessity in that investment when we're out here trying to sell Chalobah for absolute scraps like 25 million pounds. Like, how on earth do you think 40 million pounds for Duran is good value, but you want 25 million for Trevor Chalobah?
And also 50 for Gallagher.
The valuation just makes no sense.
I mean, also 50 for Gallagher. That's insanely low if we're going to pay 40 for Duran.
What if we sold Broja? Would that make a difference? The fee we got for him?
Yeah, but
is there a fee where you'd say it was fair enough?
We supposedly wanted 35 million in January. Didn't get anywhere near that, so we loaned him out. We picked the worst loan anyone has ever seen. In 5 months, he played 80 minutes. 80 minutes of game time he got. I know that gave us, £700,000? Fucking fantastic. I'm sure we can buy many brilliant things with those £700,000. Maybe it buys Maresca's welcome dinner at the club. Do you know what I mean? Like, fuck off to £700,000. So, but for me, that's the problem, because unless Broja has an absolute worldie of Euros now, you won't be selling him for anywhere near 20. You won't be selling him for more than 20. Let's just say that.
But if we did, would it change your stance? Is it the sale of Broja that would, is the linchpin, and if this is good value or not?
If we sold him for 30 or more, basically.
If we did, and replaced him with Duran.
I mean, it would be less bad.
If we want to buy Duran, why not leave Broja for another season? Why not give Broja another chance? Broja still has more Premier League goals than Duran.
And more injuries as well.
Yeah, but Duran is 20. You cannot judge if a player will be injury prone at 20 or not.
But let's say hypothetically they watch Broja day in, day out. They watch tapes of Duran. They know things. If we say he's better, wouldn't it be to our advantage to at least have
theoretically,
someone who, in their opinion, is better?
Theoretically, that makes sense, but here comes, I think, something which not many people should consider always with transfers. But if we say Breuer for 20 and buy Duran for 40, that's still a net loss of 20 million pounds, which I do not think will have that much of an impact on the season. It would be much better for us to focus on other positions. Yeah, but this amortization is not like the negative money is disappearing. It's just in the future. And the more amortizations we do, the more academy graduates we have to sell in the future
every year to make up for all that amortizing that you do.
Today we had this brief discussion in the chat. Someone said, "Oh, we're never gonna sell Levi Colwill." Well, if we get rid of Gallagher and Chalobah this year and Breuer and Madsen, then who is the next academy graduate to sell next year? Because all of these amortizations, they have to be paid off. Who are going to resell next year, for example, to cover the 100 million deficit per year which we have for the next 10 years?
Because exactly, because the problem is we won't stop signing. Like people think like, okay, we've signed, like some people think that we've signed 35 40 players in 2 years, and because they're all young, we will now stop signing players. Yeah, but that's not the reality. We
continue to sign young players.
Exactly. We will sell them as well. Ones that aren't good enough and sign new not good enough ones, or new young ones anyway. And then it's like you will continuously have this issue. So obviously, if you then qualify for the Champions League and you get top 4 in the Prem, like sure, then it kind of finances itself a little bit, because then you get bigger sponsors here, and then you get this, and then you get that. But so far, that hasn't happened. We can't just sit here and expect, okay, next year we will Champions League. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. Like, so that's the problem. Let's stop spending money expecting to be in the Champions League next season. Let's spend money like we're in the Champions League when we are in the Champions League. Not before. Because that's how clubs fuck themselves, like in all over the world. Even my local team 20 years ago went bankrupt because they spent money that they thought they'd get for qualifying for the Champions League. Instead, in the last qualifier, they hit the bar in the 91st minute, didn't qualify, went fucking bankrupt over it, and are still in the 5th division now. So I'm not saying that will happen to Chelsea by any means, because obviously the financial possibilities are way bigger, and it's almost too big to fail, as you're seeing with Barcelona now. Like any company isn't Barcelona,
there is still time for Barca to fail.
There is, but they will never like cease to exist, because the name's too big to completely like fall off the earth. And I get where batteries come from. Like if you sell Breuer for not that much below Duran, but we're still talking about the backup here. So then in that case, I would still much rather keep Breuer as the backup and spend more money on, for example, a better left back, rather than buy some left back we've never heard of before. Do you know what I mean?
If I could quickly end the Duran, thing from my point of view, I think our difference in opinion is down to the quality of the player. I might think he's a better player than you guys do. I might think he's going to get more chances, and I might think he's a different type of player. So I see the signing of Duran as a good signing, which also has financial gain in other areas, and I think you guys might not rate him as I do, which is fair. So I just want to say, from my point of view, I think he's a good enough player, and I think it's smart if you look at the striker targets we're being linked with. So that's just what I think of him.
In that context,
I think he's an upgrade on Datro Fofana. I think he's an upgrade on Broja, at least now.
But doesn't that?
So from that point of view, I would say
it's better than Datro Fofana. Doesn't that contradict the point you made earlier that all our signings have been decent? Because I don't like, if I go through some of our signings, and I'm sure
I would say all signings. I'd say most signings.
Yeah, no, I know you said most, but I'm going to rattle off a few who I don't think are that good, right? Sanchez, not good, right?
Fair.
Yeah, let's be real. Disasi, in my opinion, not good. Not worth the money anyway. But Yashil, not awful, but is he like great? So far, he's been great for 4 months. Bad for 6 months.
Here is the question. Is he better than Chalobah? Is Badiashile better than Chalobah, for example?
No.
So I don't think Chalobah was expected to be as good as he was.
Yeah, but isn't that the whole
No, but I mean, in reality now.
Scouting other potential players, I would say, not looking at our own. Like, isn't that stupid?
The thing is, after analyzing the last season, has Badiashile played better than Chalobah? No. But again, this summer, we are looking to sell Chalobah and keep Badiashile.
And I don't agree with that, by the way. I think that's stupid.
The rules aren't their fault. Yeah. Like, we have to give them that. The rules... The owners didn't make the footballing rules. That's a problem that is bigger than them. But
they should have read the rules before they came and before started spending money.
Yeah, well, they should have done. They should have done. But even like, okay, but Badiashile and Disasi. Who else is there? I mean, Fofana.
Also,
you could argue the whole first summer in general. You could argue the first summer.
The first summer was awful, but even
The first
last
summer
summer,
was
I
awful.
mean, Lavia,
And,
we still haven't seen him play, even though it's not his fault. If you look the transfer as an isolated issue, we bought a player last summer for 65 million who has played 45 minutes for us. This was a bad transfer.
And he
Lavia
was
has
19 at the time.
but
I don't think he'll end up being one.
Yes, but at this moment in time, this was a bad transfer. The
Agreed.
Wesley Fofana transfer, 2 years in the doctor's office, bad transfer. David Datro Fofana, absolutely zero chances given, zero impact, bad transfer.
I think Datro Fofana has at least done enough at Burnley that he would already be possible to sell him for profit. So
they will sell him for a profit, but
it's not a pure failure. But then you look at David Washington, who we signed for 17 million. You're lucky if you get a pound for him now.
And this Andre Santos dude,
21 side for fuck's sake, like, and we spent 17 million pounds on him.
Yeah, this Santos dude, Casadei. Why these money have to be amortized, and we will probably not make profit on Washington, no profit on Santos, no profit on Casadei.
I think Santos we might, but I guess everyone has a different opinion on Santos, I suppose.
But they're young players as well, which we need to factor in.
Sorry?
Yes, but
I
also
think specifically those players, we just need to factor in their age as well.
Let me ask you this. Let's say David Washington is really an amazing player. He's the next R9. If we buy Duran this summer, our starting strikers are going to be 22, 23 Jackson and 20 Duran. Where the hell is David Washington going to get a chance to play for Chelsea?
At Strasbourg. So I mean, but
the same goes for Santos.
Let's be real here.
The same goes for Casadei, for Santos. We have Nkunku, we have Palmer. What are these transfers?
I
don't get it.
I think there's also the line between what is a Blue Coast signing and what is a Chelsea signing is also very blurred. I think a player like Washington, even like Angelo, I think maybe even Casadei, they're coming for, let's say cheap. We're going to loan them out to somewhere, do something, and then sell them on for profit. That's the way I view those signings. So I think it'll be difficult to compare a signing like David Washington, who I think has been a terrible signing because we haven't seen him, to someone like Lavia, for example.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. They do have to be viewed slightly differently.
But still, guys, the thing is, this summer we have to sell players as a mandatory requirement to continue. We have to sell Madsen, we have to sell Broja, and probably Gallagher, because we signed so many players like Casadei, like Washington, like Santos, like Fofana, like the other Fofana, like Lavia. And when you have players worth around 300 million, let's say, who have had zero contribution to the football club, then how can we say that our transfer policy has been good? Because if we look at some of the players we let go, of course, not everyone has had a stellar time. Timo Werner still sucks. But for example, Pulisic and Ruben Loftus-Cheek, they had basically the first season in their career when they were relatively fit, and they both scored, I think, over 10 goals. And AC Milan finished second or third in Serie A. Now, would we been better if we kept Pulisic instead of buying Mudryk? Probably not a lot better, but we would not have spent 70 million on Mudryk. Would we have been better if we kept Loftus-Cheek and not bought Lavia? Last season, yes. 5 years from now, probably not. But the thing is that what counts is last season, and we were 4 or 5 points behind Champions League football, and we only had 2 fit midfielders for the entire season. We basically had to play Enzo and Caicedo every single game. Could you imagine if Caicedo had an injury on the 1st of January and had to miss 2 months? We would probably finish 10th and Poch gets sacked in February because we had no players to play. Because of this transfer policy.
Well, Buzz, isn't it a good idea that we get these permanently proven signings like Olise in as well? Someone said earlier, if Madueke got injured, who would we play then?
That is
the
true.
Only thing I think people are ignoring a little bit on that Madueke thing is Cole Palmer is still mainly our right winger. I know people are expecting Maresca to play him as an attacking aid.
And also, isn't Nkunku expected to play on the right as well?
Sorry?
Isn't Nkunku expected to play more on the right because he's awful on the left?
I heard a lot of people say he fits a Maresca center forward very well.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, and doesn't that put a question on the whole Duran signing again? if Nkunku is mostly used as striker, and then you've got Jackson and Nkunku, what are you doing with 40 million Duran? Like
it might if you play Jackson left wing, but I suppose it comes down to Maresca's. But I think in that context, it would be weird. But then you factor in the competitions as well.
Isn't it? Because our sporting directors don't care about the manager; they just sign the players and then tell.
But imagine like. Nkunku, as much as we like him, he is very injury prone. So imagine we have 4 4 competitions next season, one of the strikers gets injured for 2 months, then what? We're going to play the one?
No, I mean,
I think
this is
we'll
always the case. This is always the case, and you are right. But my issue always has been with this always signing of young players. I have no problem if Chelsea go out and pay 50, 60 million for Paulinho, for example, for Fulham, and say, okay, yes, we have Enzo and Caicedo for the future, but we want this midfielder.
90 million.
90, probably not. But if we could get him for the fee Bayern are going to pay for him, probably, would it be that bad to have a 20-year-old midfielder who has probably never had an injury in his life because he plays 35 games every season for the past 8 years? Would that be so bad to have that at the football club? With playing, let's say, 60 games next season.
Even Bertram, even if he's a bit more supportive of the way the club do it, even he wouldn't disagree with that. My problem is we talk about Lavia and we'll see how good of a signing he is. But let's for a second just claim Lavia, Caicedo, and Enzo all turn out even close to as good as most people think they can. Let's imagine that scenario for a second. You can't always depend on players being injured to keep players happy. Because if they're all 3 of them turn out as 3 of the best 10 midfielders in the world, which some people think they will, if that happens...
They could be, yeah.
No, exactly. But if that happens, there is no way you keep them happy for more than a year. That's like having Petr Cech and Courtois. It's not going to work. They're going to want to play. So either they leave or you play them all. And if you play all of the midfielders, where are you playing all of the attackers? So that's my issue with it, right?
And also, in order for you to become the best in your position, you have to play there. Like, how is Lavia ever going to become a good midfielder, a good all-round midfielder, if he only plays in the Conference League?
Exactly. I mean, he needs an injury. Rashford wouldn't even have a career without certain injuries at Man United, right? That's how it goes sometimes. But yeah, it's a tricky one. Let's get to Olise, shall we?
The issue is, let's imagine instead of Lavia, we had Loftus-Cheek. Loftus-Cheek would be happy to sit at the bench for Chelsea. He would be good enough to play when he plays. And he is 26, 27. He does not need to develop himself. But having Lavia instead of Loftus-Cheek means that every game that Lavia sits on the bench, he is missing. He has opportunity cost on the time of his life because he's going to be 20 once, 21 once, 22 only one time in his life. And if after 3 years, a fit Caicedo and fit Enzo, Lavia has started 17 Premier League games for Chelsea, then that player is ruined. And at that point, we're going to look for the next Lavia because this player is already deemed not good enough. And this is what happened to Loftus-Cheek.
And this is how you waste money. That's my problem.
Yes. Because when we had Loftus-Cheek, we bought Pulisic for 65, we bought Ziyech for 38, we bought Werner for 45, and we bought Havertz for 80 million, for example. And Loftus-Cheek was never so important enough to get minutes. Now, would he have been the player, let's say, Olise is now? Probably not. Would he have been better than Mudryk? Probably yes. Would he have been better now than Madueke? Maybe. But he would have cost nothing.
Very different positions now. But
no, I know, but I mean, Loftus-Cheek could not get minutes because we bought Havertz, because we bought Werner, because we bought Ziyech, because we bought who else did I say? Pulisic.
I'm not sure if those attackers affected Ruben's minutes really, considering Ruben is a midfielder. But
he didn't have, apart from injuries, he did not have a position to play because under Lampard and Tuchel he had to play left wing back when he was available or right wing back because the attacking positions were taken.
Absolutely.
And
but
you may not agree with the example.
Jorginho and Kovacic and Kante and these lot were kind of in his position. But I still get your point. And I know someone in the chat said Lavia and Ruben are completely different profiles. Absolutely. But one may have been fit, the other one wouldn't. But had we kept Ruben, would he have even been fit? So, there's every chance he wouldn't have been. But let's try to focus a bit more on Olise. So the big Ornstein bomber, as people like to call it, was Chelsea contact Crystal Palace about signing Michael Olise. Chelsea have expressed their interest in a 22-year-old winger and requested permission to talk with his representatives. Crystal Palace deal includes roughly £60 million release clause. Other clubs retain strong interest. Those other clubs that retain strong interest, as he confirmed a minute after that tweet, Newcastle United and Bayern Munich contact Crystal Palace over possibility of signing Michael Olise. Newcastle and Bayern expressed interest on Wednesday before Chelsea did today. Also permission to speak with the 22-year-old France youth wingers camp. So first of all, Olise. There's also still some people are expecting still Manchester United or Manchester City potentially even to get involved, even though Fabrizio said Man City like him, but they're not, like, they have other priorities right now. And then there's this big one by Matt Law, which is weird because David Ornstein didn't mention that. Matt Law says Chelsea have made a move for Olise. Sources claim that Olise's £60 million release clause may only be able to be triggered by Champions League clubs, which means not us. So what does that mean? Who knows? First of all, Ornstein didn't mention it, so do I even believe Matt Law that this is happening? Second of all, could that potentially actually be an advantage for us? Because we can just offer 70 million. The others will stick to 60 because they will not want to pay over the release clause if they have the option. If we don't have the option, we'll just pay 70. We'll probably get it in installments, which probably is for us even better than it is actually to trigger a release clause where you have to pay 60 million in one go and you can't fancily amortize it over 8 years. You need to, 5 years now. You need to just pay it. So maybe that is a benefit. But let's talk about Olise as a player. Do we want him? Do we need him? It's a difficult one because Olise is of that kind of level of player where I'm like, I'm not going to sit here and complain about signing him because he's too good to complain about signing him. Whether he costs 60 million, whether he costs 70 million, he's clearly very good. Now, there have been a few messages in the chat, in particular from Vic, who initially says, Olise is not a bursting winger. He's always drifting inside, not wide. I don't get it when we already have Palmer and Kunku who do that from wide areas, essentially. Then he went on a little bit later saying, I still maintain Olise is not a good fit for our left wing. Well, he's supposed to play right wing. But anyway, because Palmer can do everything, Olise brings per game, player side, dead ball, set piece. I hope I'm wrong. And then on top of that, you have Esteval Willian, who people talk about is literally the next Neymar, who will join the club in a year's time. And then you have Madueke, Palmer, Olise, and Esteval Willian, 4 players who all...
Isn't CFCPys also in the same bracket, or no?
Yes, but he at least is more clearly also available as a number 10 and less directly as a right winger than Esteval is. Supposedly. I haven't watched enough of any of them to really know, but that's what I hear. Now, sure, Palmer is supposedly going to play as the right attacking 8 or the left attacking 8, whichever, right? Sure. So then you open up that right-hand side space. But then you still, you still have, like, by the time Olise hits his prime, which is like, say in 5 years, by the time he's 27, even though by the time that happens, Chelsea obviously consider him a grandpa already. But by that point, Esteval Willian is now 17. So in 5 years' time, he will be 23. So then what are you going to do? You're like, again, it's a situation like I said earlier. If Lavia, Enzo, and Caicedo all turn out as good as we think they can be, well, then they're not going to be happy being in the same team because they're not all going to be able to play. So if Olise, who's already very good, but Esteval Willian and CFCPys and Cole Palmer still being here, if they're all as great as we all think they can be, well, they're also not going to be able to be in the same team because it quite literally won't work. And that's my problem because people are hyping them because they're excited to have these great players at Chelsea, and I get it. But think about how sad you were when Hazard left. Think about how sad you were when Rudiger left. These players will leave eventually, and I'm already annoyed by when they will leave but they will leave. They just will.
Can I jump in quickly?
Go on.
Why isn't this a good thing? I think we're spinning it as a bad thing. They won't want to sit on the bench. Why isn't this a good thing? Why wouldn't? All right, what are our right wing options now?
Because it also in 5 years' time, the Premier League clubs will be the only ones that have money, meaning we will sell all these great players to our rivals where they will then help them beat us to league titles. And that's already pissing me off now, even though it's not even happening yet. But no one else in the world will have the money to buy them from us, will they?
Can I just say what's wrong with this? For me, the logic, because basically Olise will replace Madueke because he will be in front of him in the pecking order. So we are already replacing a young talent who we bought 18 months ago. If, let's say, we bought Sesko, which we know it's not going to happen, but the club wanted him, and the logic of that signing was we buy Sesko to replace Jackson. Well, we're replacing a 22-year-old with a 20-year-old. Like, in 2 years, what do you think is going to happen with Olise when he's 25? They're just going to go and buy a 21-year-old winger from the Spanish league. Like, the logic of these signings is bad, in my opinion.
Right? Then he won't get replaced. But,
if we look in, I think if I look at this from my point of view, we have Madueke right now, who's taking the right wing role. We're gonna buy Olise, who in my opinion is a better player. They're gonna battle it out next year. This just from the club's perspective. Then we get these players and we get, an Esteval Williams, a CFCPys, who will be 18 when they come. Yeah. Surely they won't be able to start
No, they won't be able
from
to
the start.
start straight away,
And
but they will
but
need
if they
minutes.
do, if they're good enough, then fair, then they will.
No, but
If not-
quickly, I agree with you, and they won't need to start, and they won't expect to start from day one, and they won't expect to start maybe until they're late 1920. But they still need some minutes. So
course.
if you give them some minutes, where is Madueke getting minutes from? Or are you already selling Madueke next year to have an 18-year-old as the backup? But then what if the starter gets injured and then you have to play the 18-year-old every game?
I'm thinking in right now. I'm thinking from next season, Olise, first of all, he's going to improve our starting lineup. In my opinion, I think he's a good player. He's Premier League proven. I also think Madueke needs the competition. I think every player needs the competition. So let's say in the summer, we'll have these two players. We'll maybe have these three. We'll just sell the one that we don't think has played as well, and then we keep improving. I don't see the issue with this. I think we get these two in. We see who's better. We sell one of them if they're not content with sitting on the bench. That way we keep improving.
I agree with you in the case now with Noni Madueke, because I think when Noni was signed, none of us were acting like as we are now when Olise signed or when we're signing Esteban Willian or Kenny Price. No one thought Noni Madueke would be this next level superstar. We all knew he's this young player who's half decent. Let's bring him in. Let's see how he does. And to be honest, he's done decent. And the one thing I will say is the way Maresca has at least played at Leicester, Madueke actually suits that quite a bit better than Michael Olise does, which is his own issue, really.
But perfect, because either if he's good, then perfect. We'll just keep him. And if he's not, then we'll sell him. And that way we keep improving. I think this is
but the problem is
very healthy for the squad.
In theory, this works, but I think in practice, no one has ever attempted to do what Chelsea are doing, and there's good reason for that.
Proof it works, exactly.
Yeah, and the only example I can think of a club rapidly, let's say in 3 years, completely changing their midfield and being successful is Real Madrid. And they did it by signing one midfielder 3 years in a row. They signed Camavinga, then they signed Tchouaméni, and now they signed Bellingham. And this means that every single player...
already they signed Valverde.
Yes, but the thing is that every single player has enough time to play with Casemiro, with Modric, with Kroos, or not Casemiro, but with Modric, with Kroos, to learn from them, to learn the system and to bed in slowly. What we are doing is we are buying all of the players at the same time, getting rid of the previous generation of players and telling them, okay, learn, grow, and be better players all by yourselves.
Learn from who? From an inexperienced manager. That's the issue.
I think it would have been awesome for us, for example, let's say, to see Kovacic stay one more year so he can play next to Caicedo or next to Enzo, or don't buy.
So yeah, but we got good money.
I know, but the thing is that the logic,
the one to stay.
The logic is we got rid of Jorginho, Kante, and Kovacic, and Kante is now going to the Euros. Kovacic had a decent season for City, and Jorginho basically played, I think, 20 starts for Arsenal, who finished second with 89 points. And I'm sorry, but if we had kept even one of those in the places of Lavia, Caicedo, and Enzo, we would have been probably a bit better. And we would have had more team fluidity. It
didn't even have to be instead of one of those three. It would have been enough if it was instead of Ugo Chukwu. It didn't even have to be
I forgot he even existed, brother. Seriously, I forgot he even existed. Like, also, where is he going to get minutes from? Wait a minute.
Nowhere. He's going off to the Olympics and no one gives a shit. Why do you think we're stopping everyone from going to the Olympics except Ugo Chukwu? Make of that what you will. You know, how much do we rate him? But to go back to Bertram's point, in Madueke's case, because Madueke is not that highly rated, and even though he's good, and he's good enough to be a Premier League winger, like he's proven that, I think, to a certain level. But that's why it's fine. And even what Bertram says, next year, we'll have we'll have Olise, we have Palmer, and we've got Esteban Willian coming in. You're like, okay, so you just sell the one that's not quite as good as the others. That's Madueke. Perfectly good. Fine. But then, what's the next step? Because we all think Olise is amazing. We all think Palmer is amazing. And we all think Esteban Willian is amazing. And then, because the problem you'll have, Bertram, is you say, okay, at the end of the year, we just decide who's best. But then they're all so young that where the sporting directors and also us fans will sit there and saying, yeah, but maybe next year it will click. Or maybe next year it will click. And then you're like, and then they're going to be scared, are we selling them too early, right? Are we selling them before they are potentially clicking? And that's where it becomes an issue. If you have clear pecking orders of this guy is the best guy and this guy is the next best guy, then it's no problem. But if you have guys who are of a very similar level and all of a starting level, then it becomes an issue, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, that's why with Madueke, this works. And I agree with you, it works. But then imagine if you had three Hazards. Well, then what? Like that's a problem. Imagine if you had Hazard and Neymar in the same team. One of them would have had to play out of position. So that's already not good from the get-go. And that's if we think Olise is as good as he is, if we think Estevao Willian is as good as, or if he is as good as we think they are, then you're gonna play one of them out of position. And then
also we also have Mudryk
at a disadvantage.
We have Nkunku, we have Jackson, we have Sterling if he stays this year. These are all 4 players who have to play some minutes somewhere. And if we are on the right side having 3 potential right wingers who we all deem as awesome, and a 4th one in Madueke who we deem replaceable or sellable, then this is 7 or 8 players for basically 2 starting or 3 starting positions in a fluid system anyway, where you can also put a central midfielder probably up top and it could still work somehow because it's a possession system. Yeah. So technically...
But let me just
for many games as well,
and then you can make your point about him. I just want to clarify. I really don't have a problem with signing Olise. Please, actually, do sign Olise because seemingly everybody else that we want to sign is a bit average. So please, at least make that one signing who I think is actually good. I mean, please do sign him. I'm happy if you do, because if we do find a way of, because people say, oh, we have Palmer and stuff like that. If you do find a way of having Olise on the wing and Palmer as the right 8, and then you can interchange, that's, to me, that screams danger and that screams good. To me, that should work. So I actually see that as a positive thing, to have those 2. And then to also have that other slightly different style of winger option in Madueke on the right, I even see that as a good thing. No problem at all for me. Fantastic. It only becomes a problem once Estevao Willian and Kendrick Paez join, if they are as good as people say they are. Then because if Olise is that good, none of us will want to sell it. We'll all be annoyed. Like, why are you selling him for this 20-year-old who we haven't seen enough of really by that point, right? Even by that point, we were like, okay, Estevao, yeah. He's like, it will be like a Hudson-Odoi. It will be like selling Hazard for Hudson-Odoi. If we then sell Olise, Olise probably isn't as good as Hazard, so maybe it's not the best example, but just as a bit more exaggerated example, that's what it will feel like. And I don't
but
like.
But also, if Olise is that good,
players leaving my club for better teams. I hate it.
If one player is that good, then his direct competition will basically get no minutes, and this I think is the main problem.
Yeah. But then we have a player that's very, very good.
Yeah, but
what about the other player?
When we are buying players to resell,
they'll rotate. They can't play every game.
Well, you say they can't play every game, but Enzo and Caicedo play. Caicedo started every game he was available last season.
Good, but he was one of the only ones as well. I think we only have good things. Then, if he starts every game, and he's good every game, then fine.
Yeah, but if Enzo and Caicedo start every single game, then Lavia gets 6 starts in the Conference League, and after 2 years of 6 starts in the Conference League and the Europa League, Lavia is an average player who stopped development at 19.
Of course,
and then we can sell him.
How likely is that? I think
you sell him on a loss.
I understand where you're coming from, but if you look at a player like Malo Gusto, for example, he had the same predicament. Rhys James was out, so it's a good thing we had someone to step in. I think Caicedo is probably one of the only players who's been available.
But the thing is, if Rhys James was fit, which we want him to be, the best Chelsea team probably contains a fit Rhys James, then where does Malo Gusto play? If Rhys James
was fit, but he wasn't fit.
Yes, but the thing is that we buy these players because we think they're great. And if they are great, we assume that they will be fit. If they are fit, then their direct competition doesn't play any or plays very limited minutes of football. And because you can't have your cake and eat it with 15 young generational talents. Some of them will flop, some of them will be injured, some of them will be really good. The problem is that those who are injured and those who are flops, you lose a lot of money on them. And not only that, you can't resell them. And the entire plan of this signing policy is of developing and reselling talent.
Yeah,
but if you keep buying the talent at 2021, you are hampering the development of the other talent, which is now 23.
And you need them to, because the whole, like Bartram said earlier, the ones that don't stay, we want to sell them on for profit. But if they don't get enough game time to improve, they will not increase in value. They will devalue and lose value. And therefore, then we won't be able to sell them for profit. And that's when it becomes a problem.
And I see this as well. Hypothetically, I completely see it. And I think this will happen to some players inevitably. My argument is that we've seen over the past, since Tuchel's second season with us, we've been ravaged by injuries. And this is not just us. This is many, many teams as well. So firstly, I think we'll have injuries. I
Mhm.
also think we'll have a lot of games, and I also think we will have substitutions in games as well. So I think if you combine these three things, I think having talented players, multiple in each position, might be a good thing. And I also
Yeah.
think if you have a system which Maresca will implement, which is more fluid, I think you will be able to, chop and change at a higher level. Plus, this season we're playing Conference League, right? We will have time to play both. If we play Olise, if we play Madueke, realistically, it wouldn't make a difference. They will both be able to develop. My argument is just that having good players, and I think where our discourse is you would probably rather have an experienced backup in each position, where their value won't really decrease.
Or at least in one
That's the thing.
position.
Not in each
Exactly.
Experienced
in
backup
few,
in one
that's
position
the
at
whole-
least.
That's
Yeah.
the whole point. Like, I want a balanced team, and I don't think they're giving us that.
And also
But I don't
keep
really
in mind,
think that
guys,
makes a difference. In my,
it's
that's
the
just my opinion.
13th of June. It's the 13th of June. We are going to make more transfers. And let's say we buy Olise tomorrow. Okay, sure. We have competition on the right wing. And then here comes August and they buy another midfielder. With the same logic which is used here. Then we have 4 midfielders. Then it's January. Then they buy another striker. Then next summer they buy 2 20-year-old center backs. And this logic of just always buying the next big thing at 2021, this is my problem. Olise, phenomenal player. Sesko, phenomenal talent, but consistently buying these players one after another is just illogical.
Yeah, you
Because
need to
this is
almost wait, like give it 3 years between.
Yeah, wait for
But I
them
don't
to
think
develop.
But I don't think we're doing that anymore. I think
But we
last
are.
summer. Well, I think last season was kind of an outlier in the sense that we purchased, the players changing in the corridors and stuff. I think right now we've gotten a Premier League proven center back. We're going to buy, I think we could consider at least Premier League proven.
No, he is, but
maybe a
he
striker
is, but-
and maybe a left winger. I don't think we're going to buy that many players. It's just what I'm saying.
he
Yeah.
is, but if
I hear that.
like I told you, Sesko was the first target we could have realistically gotten because we agree Osimhen was never an option. They were never going to spend 150 million. So if you see the logic in them wanting Sesko as their first target, it is bad logic. And it's the same logic, I think, with Olise, because they are looking at another young player who is available potentially for 50, 60 million, which is not a lot of money. Yes, for Chelsea, it's not a lot. And I am pretty sure that they will keep doing this. I can bet my house that next summer someone is going to be sitting on Laurenz's stream discussing the next 20-year-old that we're going to buy to replace Enzo, for example, or that we're going to buy for competition with Levi Colwill or something like that, because they just keep doing the same thing. This is what bothers me.
The only thing that changes if they keep doing it, obviously, once they already bought, they will eventually not be quite as young anymore. So the more time that passes, the more sense this will also start to make for the squad on the day.
In theory, yes, but if we keep changing managers, let's say every year, and failing objectives every year because we keep signing young players, then this cycle is because these players won't develop. Absolutely. You can't finish 8th or 10th 3 years in a row.
I do believe in the directors and owners that they don't want to change the manager every year. The problem is, well, they pulled the trigger too soon on Potter, and ever since then they are. Well, on Poch, they were too scared to sack him when they should. Then they sacked him when they shouldn't. And now they got a manager where only time will tell whether he will get time or not. Because supposedly the target is top 4, which I think is a very unfair target to give them.
But even if he reaches top 4, what happens when next season he says, okay, I want this player, and they say, no, we're going to buy the other player? And what happens when
supposedly he accepts how it's going to go?
Yeah, but Poch also accepted that. And then after 1 year, when the media starts asking you the same questions in every single interview, you start to get a bit angry. And I'm sure the same will happen with Maresca. If we sit in 7th in March and the media ask him, okay, why are you not playing good football? He's going to say, well, I wanted this player in January and they didn't give me this player. And then in the summer, he's going to say, if you want me to succeed, I want this, this, and this. They're going to say no, and he's going.
Yeah, if he does
this is basically what happened.
But also,
this is hypothetical.
It happened with Poch.
They are idiots if they think that, because I think that I don't even if us fans know it, surely the managers shouldn't be stupid enough to think next year they will get power. That's kind of their own fault if they think that. Surely eventually they will learn. Do you know I mean? That's if there's a speed camera in a certain position on the street, if you speed there every time, well then you're gonna ticket every time. Just because you stop going past that quickly.
The thing is, I don't remember who leaked this. Maybe it was Spice or he retweeted someone else. That Poch gave them a list of 14 players he's interested in last summer, and the report said they basically ignored every single one of those players. Not even we did not sign any one of them. They did not even inquire for any of them. And considering we signed about 14 other players, what does this mean? That it means that they not only completely ignored what the coach wanted, they absolutely disregarded it.
No, and I agree that that's not how it should necessarily work, but that's how they work.
Yes, so, and the thing is that
as long as they make that clear enough to the manager, I see it as an issue, but it shouldn't be an issue with the manager, because just tell the manager.
Well, yeah, but even Maresca
or not accept the job.
Maresca, after he spends 1 year with the team, he will definitely have a different perspective on who is good enough and who is not. And what happens if Maresca goes to the CEO's office next year and says, well, I don't think I can work with Enzo, for example, with Enzo Fernandez. And the CEO says, well, no, you have to work with him because he has a 6-year contract and we don't want to sell him because he's our marquee signing from Argentina and we boosted shirt sales there by 25%, for example. Then what happens? Because these situations will happen. No manager.
He will either get sacked or he won't do that. It's as simple as that. Because that's his option. But don't you think, if you're told from the get-go, we will not follow your transfer targets. We will have our own transfer targets, and you will get those transfer targets, and it's your job to make it work. If you're told that when being hired, you're an idiot. If a year later you think it's going to be different.
I agree, but you don't know what is going to happen. You don't know what will happen with the team. How will players develop, and how will your tactics even pan out? Because in theory, I know every video that Connor does is phenomenal, and it really explains well how Maresca plays and how Chelsea players suit him. But that's only in theory. It can happen that Maresca doesn't like Caicedo. This is possible. It's not like it's impossible to happen. Or that Maresca says, well, I have watched this player from Italy for the past 3 years, and I think he's perfect, but he's 29, for example. You have to give the coach the right tools to succeed, because it doesn't matter who the coach is. They can get Pep tomorrow. If Pep needs something to make his system work and they don't give it to him, then not only is the team not going to succeed, but the coach is going to be pissed off. And this is not a recipe for success.
Now, obviously, the thing is, if the sporting directors do a good job in who they choose as the manager, then whoever the manager's targets are will align with the targets of the sporting directors. And if that is the case, which is really, that should be their main job, finding a manager who has the same ideology in who he wants to have in his team. And if they succeed at that part, that problem doesn't happen, if that makes sense, right? Chelsea offering players in Olise deal. Bertram, can you just tell me who tweeted that so I can bring it up?
Pius did, and they're talking about Madueke as well.
Interesting. Oh yeah, I've got it there.
Which, in theory, that would probably make sense.
Yeah, that would make sense, but
if you bring someone
also,
in.
Yeah.
Let me just
go on. Sorry.
No, all good. There you go. So these are the tweets of Pius in the last few minutes. First, for Matt Law, Chelsea are confident they will not have to pay more than Champions League clubs for Olise. Fair enough. There's also another report, we won't have time to bring it up now, but that essentially said we don't expect any issues with personal terms for Olise, because obviously, let's not forget, Olise already agreed to join us last year. His brother is also still in the Chelsea Academy and stuff. So I feel like if we get the okay from Palace, we will get him. And that's why I'm pretty confident. But anyway, Matt also said Chelsea are also willing to offer players as part of a potential Olise deal. Crystal Palace could inquire about Noni Madueke. I mean, would that make sense to some extent?
That's probably just an if, something he's recommended. I don't think that's, realistically something he's linked them with.
Well, if Palace decide to sell Olise, Madueke sounds like a good replacement from their point of view, I guess.
But isn't Franca the Brazilian they bought last year? Isn't he a right winger as well? I'm not sure anymore. Maybe he's a striker. But I also think that the bottom tweet here, Chelsea confident they will not have to pay more than Champions League clubs for Olise. Yeah, that's probably because we're giving them Madueke as well. So we're going to end up paying 58 million plus Madueke or something.
Yes.
But who knows how that's going to go. Like I say, I want Olise to happen. I do have my worries about how that's necessarily going to pan out in the future. But as we touched on, there's many complexities that could occur, whether that's injuries, whether that's players not fulfilling their potential. Only if they all fulfill their potential does it become a problem. And then we need to see how we deal with that problem, right? And it's also if that is only the scenario at right winger and maybe also at right back, like we touched on earlier already, if Reece starts being fit all the time.
And
if Reece
center
starts
mid.
being fit all the time, Gusto will not be here for more than 2 years. But Reece James is unlikely to be fit all the time. So there's a chance you have them both for another 5 years because they will, for many seasons, be able to play a bit like both in important games, if that makes sense. But yeah, if it becomes a problem in too many positions, again, where you have Jackson and Nkunku as striker, but then you also have Duran, who apparently already at Villa has been a bit of an issue when he didn't get to start. Well, how often do you see him starting for us if Nkunku is going to play at striker? I don't know. But yeah, at the end of the day, I hope Olise happens, but who knows how likely it is. I think it is quite likely. But then again, also a few years ago thought we're getting Rafinha, and then, well, that didn't happen. So
Fabrizio Romano just tweeted that Juventus are going to buy Douglas Luiz from Aston Villa, which probably indicates that they will go hard for Gallagher now if they didn't before.
Yes, they will. Before we get to the Euros prediction, and we will do that in just a minute's time, I do quickly want to highlight, because that is one of the things I wanted to bring up. I guess on that note, I should also say Ben Jacobs, for example, said Olise wants to assess all his suitors first before making a decision. So that sounds a bit more like he's convinced that he wants Chelsea already. But there was also obviously the Levi Colwill Bayern talk, according to Alex Goldberg. And I know people don't really like and rate Alex Goldberg as a source, but I think Alex Goldberg has spoken to enough people that you can believe him, that he will know the people around Levi, if not Levi himself. So, Levi Colwill is not going to buy it. And if anyone's worried about that, you don't need to worry about that. That is not happening. Chelsea will not allow it, and he doesn't even want that to happen. So
I think they got the Stuttgart guy as well. I think that's been a here we go. The Japanese player.
Who?
Crystal Palace. Or?
No, Bayern.
Oh,
but is he in the same position? Is he a centre back?
I think he's a centre back.
Because I heard they want Jonathan Tah from Leverkusen, and if they can't get him, their next option will be Colwill.
I think I saw something with the here we go, but yeah,
it might well be. I don't know. The poor old Sebastian Hoeneß, by the way, decided to stay at Stuttgart, and now Stuttgart are losing all their players. Brilliant, for him. But that's how it goes for these clubs. Also, did you see, guys? The Serbia is going to Marseille. What?
Yep.
Life is weird, man. Life is weird. Anyway, according to The Guardian yesterday, Chelsea are considering a shift in their position over selling Conor Gallagher and could make a concerted effort, to agree a new deal with the midfielder. Thoughts, Bertram?
I would say get it done. I think he's deserved it. I think hasn't had any injuries. He's our captain. I think he has. I think it'd be stupid for us to sell him now. And I think it'd be stupid for us to let him go on a free. So I think they need to, realistically, how much is he going to want, if we're honest, right? So I would offer him a deal.
Which is not that bad.
I think that's fair. I think we should get it done. I think the risk of losing him and him being good is stupid. I can agree that sometimes, technically, he isn't at the level. I think he's been much better, the last part of the season, technically. And I think, just for the culture as well, I think he's been very important. So I can't believe this is taking so long. And I really, really hope this isn't a media brief or like you tweeted, where this is kind of like a Mount contract extension. I just think it needs to get done. At least
that's what I was going to ask you next. Do you think that could be true? Or do you think it's going to be one of these alibi, type of contract offers, like you just said, like we gave to Mount, where it's 1 year and no one's going to accept that, but then they can claim, well, we offered him a new contract, so the fans turn on him, like they did with Mount?
I think the thing with Mount is the fans, and they turn on him for different reasons. I think I'd be more. I know you are as well. I'd be supportive of Gallagher not accepting a shitty deal, if I'm honest.
Yeah, 100%.
As well, I just think he's a player that has deserved, and I think he deserves the new contract, and I think he improves us. And I think selling him, the only issue I have is the owners will think it's too good of a deal to turn down 50 million per pure profit. But I just can't stand the thought of him going to another.
For the owners is that Gallagher needs to play along as well, because obviously, again, we can't forget January 2023. Everton made us an offer of £45 million for Conor Gallagher, and Chelsea said yes, but Conor Gallagher said no. So that's why it didn't happen. So
and that just makes us love him more.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why obviously, in an ideal world, I want Conor Gallagher to stay and just get a new contract and just stay. But if he doesn't get a new contract, and I know people say, why would you pick a player over your club? And I said this before, Conor Gallagher is more my club than anything that these owners have done with my club. So for me, Conor Gallagher is more Chelsea and is more what my heart associates itself to than just the name Chelsea under these owners and directors. So
And
I
he's
would much
proved it
rather
as well.
Conor Gallagher fuck over these owners, give us less money to buy stupid new players next year than I would to sell Gallagher. And I know some people say, why are you going against Chelsea? No, because I don't want Chelsea to go down this route. And all selling Gallagher does is allow them to sign more 10-year-olds. That's all it does. And I'm not a fan of Nonseri. So, there you go. But yeah, I mean, Dimitar, first of all, what do you think this is? Do you think this could be the reality and there is a chance Gallagher gets an actual new contract? Or do you see this as, first of all, just a lie or one of these Mount alibi offers?
I actually have no idea what their angle is, but if we are to believe on all of the accounting reports and stuff about finances, we basically have to sell him. Like, unless we get the maximum value for Madsen and for Broja, which is not looking likely at this point, I don't see how we keep him. I mean, especially when the money being quoted is around 50-55 million, I don't see how, if we get such an offer, that these owners will reject it. The question is, will Gallagher want to be
exactly
sold?
And if he refuses to leave, will they think, okay, well, maybe then we're better off just giving him like a 4-year deal than we are, offering a 1-year deal, which is never going to say yes to.
The
and
only
don't want
thing,
to lose him for free, do they?
The only thing I could see them do is insert some kind of clause in his contract, but I don't think if such thing exists where they can sell you without your permission. I don't know if that's possible, but this is the only way I would see where they give him a longer contract, where they just guarantee themselves a way to sell him next summer.
Yeah, I wouldn't rule it out completely, but the whole with the books for this year, I think that needs to be, we need to be a little bit calculated about this, because yes, with the amortizing fees, the fee that we need to almost cover is quite large every year. Absolutely, but
yeah, and it's growing.
It is growing, but what is not amortized is agent fees and signing on bonuses. And part of what made such a big fee to like counterbalance this year is the fact that we made 2 ginormous deals in 2023 in Caicedo and Enzo, and even if you want to add to that Mudryk, I know obviously they were signed before that financial year, but then the whole thing works in 3-year cycles, doesn't it? So because if we don't make such ginormous deals anymore, there's less agent fees, and there's also, we're still getting we're getting more wages off the books. So therefore, how much we need to cover won't be quite as much next year as it is this year, because we won't have the huge deals like a Caicedo, where there's obviously big agent fees.
Yeah, probably, but
it won't be. It's not. You can't just say, okay, next year then we need to sell Gallagher desperately then, because we won't have future hotels. That's true.
If they buy Duran and Olise,
they might just build a new hotel and sell it.
Yeah, but if they buy Duran and Olise, and we still need maybe a left back, then that's 150 million this summer.
Yeah, but compared to what, 600 million last year?
Yes, but that's also, if you amortize 150, that's like 30 million for the next 5 years, which is still, if you add that to the 100 million over 8 years from the last year, then it's adding up to a lot of money. But my stance is, I like Gallagher. I would have loved to see him under Poch for a second year. We're not going to get that. I don't know if he's going to play at all if he stays. I just hope that they don't send him to Tottenham. That's my only hope now, because I will not stand him playing in Tottenham. No,
I agree. Like when the reports about Villa came out, and I don't want to say I was happy about it, but I would certainly be happier him going to Villa than I would with him going to Spurs.
The thing is, he will make Villa better, and if they get him, and if he is fit, this will probably mean that they will finish above us again this year, but still better than Tottenham.
Yeah. The weird thing is they already did sign Ross Barkley, and Ross Barkley and Conor Gallagher play very similar positions. So, and even if while Douglas Luiz is much deeper than both of them, so I'm not.
Well,
really
Douglas Luiz is kind of similar to how Gallagher was used last year under Poch. I mean, sometimes he can play from the CDM role and then just bomb forward when they shift.
At Villa, he would be used that way, though.
Probably not, but yeah.
I think it would then be more of a more common, either attacking 8 or 10. But who knows? Enough of like all sorts of pieces of transfer news. Hey, let's see what happens. I hope we get Chelsea done. There's another bit that there's a good chance Infinite Athlete will remain as Chelsea's front of shirt sponsor because Ria there and Chelsea cannot agree on Chelsea's £50 million per year price, which, you know, we're so badly run off the pitch, aren't we, Mr. Eggbali? Fuck off. Anyway, talking about the Euros, shall we? Talking about the Euros, because a lot of Chelsea stuff at the moment, which I think almost ruins my vibe because I wanted to feel excited for the Euros. Like, stop me with all these stupid transfer rumors. Yeah, give me a rest. Sign players after. Now, I want to be talking and focusing on the Euros. I'm, of course, Austrian. People might not know. You can see half of the shirt in the background. The Bertram is Danish, of course. They usually always beat us, so hopefully we're not going to play against these lot this time around because that always pisses me off. Because Denmark, they're the only good team that doesn't play with the ball. And because the way we are good is fucking counter-pressing, against Denmark it doesn't fucking work. Because they just park the fucking bus and then they counter us where we can't game-press anyone. Flip sake. Well, we have Dimitar here, who is Bulgarian, whose country unfortunately hasn't qualified, but he told me before we went live he's probably just about supporting England. So I think it's an interesting spread of interests, I would say. Bachman, I want to start with you. What is the vibe, the feeling, the kind of the expectation for Denmark going into this tournament? Because you've done quite well in the last Euros. I think you made it to the quarterfinals and then lost to England, if I remember.
Semis. Well, it was a semis.
There you go. So that's very good. Does your country, do you believe that can be replicated, or do you think?
Well, I think the vibes for the Euros in 2021 is unlike anything I've ever seen, especially because some of them were played in Copenhagen as well.
Yeah, of course.
I've never seen anything like, you know, the national team just took the country by storm. It was good. We played very, very well. It was the first games we had under our new head coach where we played a bit more with the ball. You know, before we parked the bus. Now we do play a bit more with the ball, and you know, very optimistic going into the World Cup as well. We just beaten France twice, Austria twice as well. Narrowly missed out on winning our Nations League A group, but the World Cup, there was really bad vibes because basically we had said that, you know, the national team had said, you know, we're gonna go there and fight for human rights, and, you know, we're the One Love armband and stuff, and just did nothing. So the vibes were really, really bad. We played terribly.
Was it in the World Cup that Christensen scored his screamer, or was that in the Euros?
It was the Euros. I've never celebrated anymore. That was crazy. But I think after the World Cup, very bad discourse around the national team. Even, you know, just before we just played 2 test games against Sweden and Norway. Before that, none of us were optimistic about even getting out the group. But we played quite well. The optimism is back. So I think right now we're kind of hoping not getting out of the group would be a failure, and getting to the quarterfinal would be a success. So anywhere in between.
Okay, I hear that. I absolutely hear that. Do you still have the same manager as in the Euros and the World Cup? Yeah,
we do.
What's his name again? Remind me.
Kasper Hjulmand. And the thing is, he kind of has his favorites as well. We have O'Reilly from Celtic, who's been, you know, their player of the season, very good. He hasn't gone. We're still playing some of the older generational players, but sometimes they do kind of perform for us. So it's very interesting to see. But the thing is, you know, it being in Germany, there'll be a lot of Danish fans. So
our
games will be fun, and I would love nothing more than to get revenge on England for the semi for 3 years ago. That was terrible.
I can imagine. Because obviously, from my perspective anyway, Denmark's big issue for years has kind of been that you just about quite didn't have a good enough striker for the rest of your team, because you had fantastic wing backs, you had fantastic centre backs, your midfield with Eriksen, and when Højbjerg was still a bit, you know, more closer to his peak, you had a great team, but your strikers were like Poulsen and Braithwaite and these kind of players. But now you have Højlund. So does that change things, or has maybe the striker gotten better, but the rest of the team is not quite as good anymore?
The rest of the team is pretty much the same, which is one thing.
And therefore not as good anymore because they're old.
Exactly. No. Højlund was very, very good when he just came in. He scored a hat-trick and 2 goals. So he scored 5 goals in the first 2 games. He's really kind of stagnated, as he has for United as well. So very raw. Poulsen came in and scored a tap-in last game, which was very good to see. But our striker situation hasn't always been as good as we'd wanted it to be. But the thing about Poulsen is, look at him as kind of a Giroud type. You know, you're not going to get someone who sets the world alight, but you'll get someone who presses well, very consistent, and does actually score goals. So I think the main danger threat from Denmark will come from the wing backs and from the wingers when we kind of change systems, because we have 2 systems we play. But I think the thing with Denmark is just a very, very solid team. And if I think there's one player you should look out for is Hjulman, who's or like a CDM. It's kind of a younger Højbjerg, played for Sporting, very, very good, and just broke through.
Interesting. Surprised Chelsea haven't signed him yet.
After the Euros.
Yeah, good chance of that happening. That's the next thing. We're signing all these players now. Watch how many players they think are great after the Euros.
Oh yeah.
Watch
some Scottish 19-year-old centre back impress them, and they buy him for 50 million.
Yeah, exactly. Some Mexicans, some Americans. Copa America.
Oh yeah, Copa America as well. After that, yeah.
Especially
oh wow.
It's in the US as well. So like Barley and Bodie will probably see way more of that.
Oh
than
yeah.
Euros. So, we know how it will go. Yeah, Dimitar, you're obviously, like I say, a bit more of a neutral, but maybe with slight favoritism towards England. How do you see more of a, rather than a country-specific perspective like Bertram's, who do you see as the one or two, maybe three big favorites? If you want to also name your 4 semi-finalists, I guess, because they are the usual ones. But is there any like dark horse favorite in there for you?
I'm gonna say it this way. I think if we look at it purely logical, England or France should win it basically, because they have the most consistency in the squads. England have the better squad by a bit for me, but France have the better manager clearly than Southgate. Of course, even I'm a better manager than Southgate.
It's interesting to think that you think France has England has a better squad.
I think France, if you look at the squad currently, there has been a bit of transition since that 2018 World Cup win, and then the Euros, and then the next World Cup. So
England have started Mark Guehi, and no front to Mark Guehi. I rate him, but he still plays for Crystal Palace.
Yeah, but I think if we focus on, let's say, the midfield for England, like Bellingham and Rice have a lot of experience playing together. If we add Palmer in front of that, Saka, Foden, who all had very good seasons, if we add Kane with the best season of his life, Watkins as a backup, also the best season of his life, potentially Gallagher in there, best season of his life. He had like 19 or 18 goal contributions this year. I think England have a bit of a better settled squad, because France, they have a lot to choose from, but I'm not sure that they have such cohesion. If I'm not mistaken, they didn't do well in the last games. I think they did 0-0 with Canada or something like that, which is not a big indicator. But I would say France and England are the favorites. As a dark horse, I would probably say Germany, because I don't expect them to win, but they probably have the best manager. Because I think in terms of like man management and tactics, probably Nagelsmann is better than everyone else. Yeah. Edges France's coach just by a bit, but that's because France's coach was there for maybe 10 years and he has national experience. Nagelsmann has on-hand experience from the past 2-3 years, which I think is very, very good. Another team who could potentially make a surprise, I'm going to say either Serbia or Austria. Because for the Serbians, I know they're going to be supremely motivated. They always rally for these tournaments, and sometimes it doesn't work. But if it works, and if the fans get going, the atmosphere gets insane, because in Germany, a lot of people from there live. So I'm guessing at all of their games, it's going to be basically like home games. Probably the Serbia-Denmark game is going to be very interesting, because I'm sure there are going to be a lot of Danish people and a lot of Serbian people there. Unlike most of the other games where I don't expect so many people from those countries to be here. So I guess the atmosphere will be something people have to fear. And I wanted to say,
could be quite,
big. But I wanted to say to Bertrand that I think that Denmark should be looking to beat Serbia for sure, because against England, I don't think you need a result. But if you lose to Serbia, I think it's going to be a big problem for you in that group, because losing to Serbia means you have to beat England, and then
we've just played Serbia in a friendly not long ago, and even though the second half in the end we won 2-1, they are terrible. I mean that is compared to Austria. We're decent, but we're not that great, right? And
the thing is,
it was so beatable for us. Obviously, they can turn up at the Euros. Absolutely, they can play much better than they did in that friendly. No question about it.
The thing is,
for the
people
have deteriorated a bit.
For the people in that region, sometimes it's about the team spirit. It's about the team cohesion, and they have some big dogs in their team. We know Mitrovic. He can score goals. If he gets his groove on, they could do something. I know they're probably going to go out in the group stage because their group is kind of tough, but I think it's going to be interesting for me to see how they do. And your team, Austria, I think they're probably in the toughest group, but I think they have a chance because I think Lewandowski is injured. Yeah. And also De Jong, I think, got injured.
You can't forget third place teams well, the four best.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So basically, and I think De Jong got injured the other day for Netherlands, or so basically the who you will be fighting for the second spot, they look shaky, and I guess also it's gonna be full of Austrians in these games as well. Especially, yeah. So you are going to the one in Berlin against the Netherlands, yeah?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so these are probably the most interesting games for me. If I have to pick games, probably Spain, Italy, and then Netherlands, Austria, because I think those are games which Spain, Italy will try to fight for the first place, and Netherlands, Austria will fight for the second place. And I think probably they will be very passionate games.
I do agree. I'm surprised you haven't mentioned Portugal, to be honest. Like Portugal, squad-wise, look very strong.
But the manager, bro,
a few analysis.
They got Martinez's manager.
That is their problem. Absolutely.
But he's good in international management, at least, or solid.
Yes, he solidly failed with Belgium.
Because
he beat Portugal
never know. If Belgium has someone else, would they have won a Euros and the World Cup? Maybe not. We will never know the conclusive answer to that. So it's a tricky one. But
Belgium have the easiest group in the world. I personally am going to the game Ukraine versus Romania, not because I support them. I just got tickets to that game, and it's in Munich where I live. So the Belgium group is absolutely insanely bad. So Belgium will waltz the group, and I expect them fully to go out to someone in the quarterfinals.
Romania actually could survive. They've had a really good qualification.
They could, but
they've been quite good.
Yeah, but the quality of the group is just. I think this is probably the worst group.
Completely.
For sure. Although, I mean, we never know with Turkey. Obviously, everyone was having them as dark horse for the last Euros, and then they lost every game. If they play like that again, this could also be the worst group. So,
it's a tough competition, I must say. Yeah, the last two groups are definitely not vintage Euro games.
No, this is where you see obviously the slight negative when they from 2016 increased the number of teams. On the one hand, it's a bit more fun because you got an extra round and stuff, and it is good for obviously these smaller countries because for them the big achievement is making it there, not even considering.
Even though my country still can't make it, those bastards.
I'm sure they will one day, mate.
Oh no!
I'm sure once Berbatov has a kid, maybe then.
Yeah. No.
There you go. But yeah, from an Austria perspective, just to give my perspective as well, I do like to see us as this slightly dark horse and stuff. We have big injuries and unfortunately big losses in injuries. We have
is Alaba fit?
No,
he's
out injured. Unfortunately, he's coming to the tournament essentially as a member of staff to be like an off the pitch captain essentially. So I guess he's involved at least, but no, he can't play. Our first choice goalkeeper did his ACL. Alexander Schlager plays for RB Salzburg, and the second.
Oh wow, really?
The other goalkeepers we have play for Brøndby in Denmark, and the other one plays.
He's good though.
He is not bad to be.
He's good. Very small though.
Yeah, he is very small. He's like Kepa, maybe even smaller. And the other one who played in our last friendly against Switzerland, he is the backup goalkeeper at Saint-Gilloise in Belgium. So, that tells you everything you need to know, really.
Yeah.
And by the way, the first choice goalkeeper for Saint-Gilloise is a 34-year-old from Luxembourg, and still our guy's second choice behind him. So,
look, you can always call me if it is. I could do a shift. I promise.
Yeah, we just need to get your passport, and then we'll make it work.
I'll get it done. But I think isn't the good thing with Austria that perhaps with Rangnick's style of play, the quality of player, that when it goes from like Alaba to someone else, it doesn't have that much of an effect because it's more counter pressing in a way.
Yes, no, 100%, and 100%. I think that's why it's a bit of an issue that the last player I haven't said yet that's missing is Xaver Schlager. Like we have two Schlagers missing. He's the Leipzig midfielder. Yeah, we have. That is double funny. He plays for RB Leipzig, plays every game there, and he also did his ACL as far as I know. And he also starts every game usually otherwise. So we've got our starting centre mid missing, our starting centre back missing, and our starting goalkeeper missing, which is obviously not exactly what you want. Obviously, like Bertram said, the way we play counter pressing, and obviously we've still got Sabitzer, we've still got Konrad Laimer from
Sabitzer was amazing the last couple of months for Dortmund.
But he seems to have fallen into a serious depression after losing the Champions League final. He even said because of his mental health, decided he's not playing the last friendly against Switzerland because he said he's not ready. So God knows what that's going to be.
God damn.
But yeah, the reason why Alaba is such a big miss is because sometimes it's not just us pressing. Sometimes other teams will also press us. And then having or not having Alaba changes everything in terms of can we beat the press, yes or no. Having Alaba like changes everything in terms of that.
And also
Obviously,
he's
having
the
a
most
decent goalie-
experienced player. He's the most
he's
experienced player.
experienced and obviously also just off the level, I guess. But yeah, we're still good, and I still give us a chance to come second, because if we come third, we'll just get easy knocked out in the round of 16 because the opponent will be too difficult. But if we get second and we go through, we can play against another team in second. Maybe for the first time in our history, we could make the quarters. That would be my hope, that we can make the quarters. But let's predict our groups, shall we? Group A: Germany, Scotland, Hungary, and Switzerland. I think a slightly underrated group, personally. But we'll see how that goes. Obviously, with the opening game tomorrow, I think we're probably all in agreement that Germany topped the group. By the way, if we have split votes, we just like each vote for one, and then we'll see. If we each vote for someone different, then I'll have to just go with mine, because how else are we going to decide? I can't go with a poll.
Yeah.
But we are in agreement, I assume, Germany to top that group?
Yes.
There you go. Who do you reckon comes second? I'll go with you first, Bertram.
I don't really rate Scotland. I think this is the best Scottish team in a while, but I don't really rate them in a sense. I would probably go Switzerland. I think they're quite solid. I think they have international experience as well in the way Scotland doesn't have. So I'd probably go Switzerland.
I would probably agree. I think Switzerland have an underrated squad, really. First of all, it's weird. It's like they invented goalkeeping. How can you have Sommer and Kobel? And like we don't have even one good goalkeeper. How is that fair? Like we're neighboring countries. How can you have all the goalkeepers and we have none? Give us some.
Think about Slovenia as well, with Handanovic and All Black all these years.
Exactly. It's mental. Why can we never have a good goalkeeper? Flip's sake. But yeah, I think it's going to be between Hungary and Switzerland for that second place, and that head-to-head game will be the decisive one, in my opinion. But I do think Switzerland, obviously, Xhaka had a great season. Shaqiri, I know by now he plays in the MLS, but he will turn up for these kind of tournaments. He always does. So I do think they have a good team. Their only problem, a bit like Austria,
by the way,
they don't have
It's so obvious that your girlfriend has Albanian roots by the way you said Shaqiri.
Yeah, I learned.
But by the way you said it without Shaqiri.
I had to learn how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
There you go. But Dimitar, do you agree that Switzerland comes second?
Yeah, of course. They're much better than Hungary. I mean, Hungary have fallen off a cliff. Not that they were good in the last years, but they played against Bulgaria, I think, in their last game of the qualifiers, and they were awful. They had to draw against us in the last 2 minutes of the game. I think that they played really bad.
Because at the last Euros, they were pretty good, but obviously a bit like what Denmark had with their games in Copenhagen. Hungary had the advantage that they played their home games in Budapest, which obviously that home advantage will help these slightly. Well, with Denmark, that's maybe not appropriate, but Hungary as this smaller footballing nation, like that will have helped them because they got upset results. Didn't they draw against Germany? Or
they were 5 minutes away in Munich. 5 minutes away from
yeah.
Exactly. So, there you go. But do we think Hungary comes third, or do we think Scotland comes third?
I think
Scotland, from what Dimitar says.
Well, I would say Hungary, but we have to keep in mind that Scott McTominay will probably score about 5 goals in this group stage. So,
yes, I do. It's a weird one. A lot decides tomorrow because I think tomorrow there's a lot of pressure on Germany in this opening game. I think if the opening game would have been against Switzerland, I would have backed Switzerland to win that game. Because Scotland are not that good, maybe it's less likely, but I wouldn't be really shocked if Scotland get a draw tomorrow. And if they get a draw against Germany because of opening game pressure,
yeah,
then
that's a fair point.
No way Scotland get a point tomorrow.
Sorry?
No way Scotland get a point
I also doubt it.
I don't think so either. But you never know with Germany. Like they also drew 0-0 against Ukraine. Is Ukraine that much better than Scotland? Like, do you know what I mean?
I think it's different when you have the ceremony and it's in Berlin as well. I think
in Munich actually, but yeah.
It's in Munich. Yeah, it's here. Yeah.
No, I agree. I just fear the pressure could be a bit big. But that's the only thing. But yeah, I'd probably just about go Hungary. Like they still got, Soboslai. They've got some good players. But maybe I'm also just still thinking of how quite decent they were in the last Euros. And maybe, like Dimitar said, maybe they're just terrible and actually Scotland will make it. I've listened to an English podcast about this. People are like, I've heard people say that Scotland should make it through a second. I'm like, sorry? What? How do you think that? But anyway, each to their own, I suppose. let's get to Group B then. Dimitar, I'll start with you. Who do you reckon tops that group? Because there's 3 teams that could top that group.
This is probably the most the hardest group to call, because both Spain and Italy for me will be very, very non-consistent in the entire tournament. They might play a semi-final against each other. They might drop out at the quarterfinals or the last 16.
Yeah.
So if I have to bet, I would say Italy, because they are winners and they have to wash off the shame from not qualifying for 2 consecutive World Cups somehow.
Yeah.
So I imagine if they go out in the group stage, it's going to be a national catastrophe. So I'm gonna say they top the group.
Italy, okay, interesting.
Italy, yeah. And I think probably the thing is that I don't think any of these teams are particularly good, because I think Spain's captain is Morata or something, and that just says enough about the entire nation at this point.
That's the weird thing. Morata being Spain's captain is, for me, the worst thing about Spain, because I think otherwise Spain are actually good, and I think Spain could be one of these, like, a little bit surprised. They're Spain, so it shouldn't be really a surprise. But I wouldn't be shocked if Spain make the semis, because you just never know.
Oh yeah, they could. Yeah, that's the thing.
Even at the World Cup, didn't they, like, quite unfortunate? Like, the last Euros, they lost on penalties to Italy. The eventual winners at the World Cup, I think they lost.
They lost penalties again to Morocco, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, to Morocco, who in the end at least made the semis as well. So, like, Spain can turn up, but
Spain can turn up, but they could also lose against Austria, let's say, in the quarterfinals on penalties or something like that. Yeah. So, I mean, no, really, because every time when I think Spain will play better against Italy than they play against Albania. Because Albania will be motivated for that game, and Spain will know that they have to win that game, for example, because otherwise they're out, basically. Whoever does not beat Albania in that group is guaranteed to be out of the tournament. So
I agree.
That's why I'm not sure if I think that Croatia or Spain would be second, but let's say Croatia. Why not? Let's say Spain third from me.
We might have an interesting order here, because I would order it quite differently. So let me go to Bertram first. What order would you give that group, my friend?
I would probably go. I'd go Italy. I'd then go Croatia, and I'd then go. I think Spain are always quite difficult. I would pretty much back them to go through. I think I like Italy's squad. The thing is, it kind of reminds me of their squad in 2016, where it's not the biggest names, but a lot of young players as well, some experienced heads. I think they have a good manager in Spalletti, which
for sure
you would need to put big price on. So I think I would always back Croatia to go through. I watched them against Portugal, where they weren't good, but things just go in their favor, and they have the experienced heads as well. Realistically, though, I'd go Croatia as third. I know that contradicts what I said before. I would go Spain, Italy to go through. As Dimitar said, beating Albania. I think Croatia might get a result against one of the big teams, but might fail to beat Albania because they can't break them down or something. So
it's also a local derby, because both countries have a small border with each other. So this is going to be a heated match as well. Because in this Euro we have a lot of local derbies, I think, which is very interesting. Also, the Slovenia-Serbia
makes it more likely that Spain comes second, because Croatia have this start.
I know.
But Albania get a result for me, purely for the slightly elevated levels of passion. Now, I would personally pick Spain as first, and I'm surprised you're picking Italy, because don't forget, the only reason Italy are even at the Euros are that Mudryk got denied the most stonewall penalty in the last minute of their qualifier game, and if they got that penalty and scored it, Italy would have needed the Nations League qualifiers to even qualify. So therefore, to me, I think Italy are coming third in this group personally. But two of you voted first, so I'll give you first, but I will then at least go Spain second for sure. Croatia is a tough one, because, well, they're just the
thing is,
shit,
this
really.
Group is very hard to call, and I could easily see Croatia also going first. I can see Spain going first. I just think that Spain don't have the talent right now. Italy probably have also the better manager.
More of an issue, don't you think? Like, their starting striker is going to be Scamacca. Like,
Spain's starting striker is Morata.
Yeah, but Morata is miles better than Scamacca is.
Is he though? Is he though?
I mean, he still scored like 12, 13 goals for Atletico. He's not that bad.
I think the thing is, Spain might have a better squad, with the new players, with
Yeah, Nico
Williams as well,
Lamine
having
Yamal,
experience has
plenty.
like Rodri in there as well. I think
Oh
Italy
yeah,
are
okay.
good
Rodri
with
plays for
size
them. Yeah, I
package.
forgot about
I think Italy have a very low percentage of players who played the last Euros to this one as well, whereas Croatia and Spain pretty much have
But isn't that exactly
close to the same
Italy's
team.
problem? Because last time they won the Euros.
I suppose,
not
but
having many
I
left
think
is exactly the problem, I think.
it's like buying a lottery ticket.
Yeah.
I think
No,
either
it.
they're
Italy.
good, Scamacca just kills everything, or
he was great at
then,
Atalanta, don't get me wrong. But look at him at West Ham, man. He was fucking terrible.
I think you need to factor the manager in there. The best manager in that group will be Spalletti. So if he
Yeah,
gets
for
placed
sure,
on
yeah.
through,
Right now.
in a way, I would think it'll be good. Italy won the Euros because of Mancini as well.
Who is the Spain manager? So, according to Google, it's Luis de la
Luis
Fuente.
de la Fuente, who's
Who the flip is that guy?
he
The
was
thing
their
is that
Spain youth
yeah.
coach before.
Yeah, I know his face. But yeah.
Spain could play well in this tournament, but they lack experience. I think also Italy, the domestic league in Italy, for me, performed better on average than the Spanish one in the last couple of years in Europe, and a lot of these players got experience. I mean,
problem
Fiorentina
is-
played.
How many of the Italian teams, how many of the best players are Italian?
Well,
Like,
not
you've got
not a
at
lot
Inter,
of
you've
them,
got-
but
you've got-
still the
at Inter, you've got
competitive.
Vescoli and you've got Barella. No one
But
else
the
there is Italian. And Di
competitiveness
Marco.
of the league, I think it's better because in Spain, Barca and Real automatically finish normally second and
No,
first.
no,
But
obviously, bro, obviously. But a lot of good players at Real Madrid
Oh,
and
no.
Barcelona are at
of
least
course,
Spanish,
of course,
you
it's
know.
just I think that I find it that competition in the domestic league when the players play there is also important. I think that's why England did well, let's say, in the Euros in 2021, because during that period we had a lot of competition in England for the first and second place. And also you could consider Chelsea were playing a bit better, Tottenham were playing a bit better, United were not as
I mean, we
bad
just
as they
won
were now.
the Champions League at the
Yeah,
time.
so domestic competition on multiple fronts, I think, is very important, especially for the big leagues. That's why in Germany, I said I don't expect them to do anything big, but they have a good manager. And Dortmund did well this year in the Champions League. They have a lot of German players. Bayern are strong. I could see them doing something because of their manager and because of the momentum they have. Not that I think that they will, but it's not impossible.
Interesting.
But yeah.
Very interesting. Sorry, I've just checked if Pice has tweeted anything interesting. So supposedly, according to Fabrizio, the Duran deal to Chelsea will only happen if players or a player is involved. And now, for some reason, Pice retweeted someone replying. I don't know who that guy is. Gusto or Martin. And some other guy said Gusto, and he again retweeted it. What? I'm so confused, Pice. Why are you doing this? Anyway, let's get back to these groups.
Yeah, I saw it as well. Yeah. Gusto straight swap for Duran. What the hell?
So, well, if we do that, even worse signing. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. I think in the end, like I say, two of you went for Italy top, fair dues. We'll have Spain second, we'll have Croatia third. We'll obviously see what that leads to in the brackets. Let's get to Group C. England, Serbia, Denmark, and Slovenia. Bertram, I'll start with you. You being Danish, Denmark being in this group, do you disagree with England topping, or do you also agree with that?
I think I do. I think it'd be kind of like the World Cup, where they might, scrape through. They haven't really impressed me, and I think the thing is with England, a lot of people overrate them because they know the players. So you see a player like I don't know,
have
John
too
Stones.
many good players in the same positions, and then not enough good players in the other positions.
Exactly.
And a
I think
They don't
terrible
have a
manager.
single left back that's fit. They don't have a single left back. It's ridiculous.
Exactly, and I think when it comes to be showtime, I think of course they turn up, or they'll get the ref to give them a dodgy pen like last time, perhaps.
It was a dodgy
But
pen.
I realistically, if I take my red and white tinted glasses off, I think they do top the group. It would be funny if they didn't, but I think they do.
Yeah, Dimitar, I assume you agree.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thing
All I
is,
can really say on go on.
It would be funny if they don't. That's true.
Yeah, no, it would be funny if they don't. Yeah, the only thing I can say on England, really, I don't understand why they didn't take Grealish, because now to me they don't have a clear left winger. Why would you do that? I don't get it. They also, I don't like. Why does he keep playing Rice like Rice plays at Arsenal? You need to play Rice like a defensive midfielder, like in that friendly against Iceland, when they obviously lost very recently. They played Mainu from Man United, the 19-year-old, as the DM, and Rice higher. are you an idiot? Like only Southgate will come up with ideas like that. Do you know what I mean?
He's
And then like
practicing for Man
for
United
years
next
and
year.
years and years, everyone told you stop picking Maguire. Now this season, because of injuries at United, Maguire played a surprising amount and actually wasn't that bad. And now all of a sudden he leaves him out, which again makes zero sense. And at left back, he keeps playing Kieran Trippier, who had the worst season of his career, when he's usually a right back, and now he's supposed to play left back because Luke Shaw is injured and Ben Chilwell's injured. So I don't know what they're going to do. I agree with Bertram. I think they are ever so slightly overrated, but let's see how it goes. Because the other players that they do have, Kane, Bellingham, Foden, Palmer, if he gets to play, Saka, they're all so, and Rice, they're all so good that alone could be what drags them to maybe a final. But I think the defensive situation is a problem for them. So, but yeah, you'd still have to expect them to top the group. For me, I would then expect Denmark to come second. Dimitar, you touched on Serbia earlier. Do you think Serbia will come second, or do you go with Denmark?
The thing is, I think it's possible. The logic dictates Denmark, of course, but I think it's possible that Serbia managed to sneak in second. It's really a possibility for me. I'm gonna say they're definitely going to not finish last. But yeah,
I agree.
I think this is low-key an interesting group. Many people would look at it and say this group is clear and obvious, but I think this is one of the more interesting groups. I think this group has more stakes than or is more interesting than the first group, for example, because here I can quite easily see an upset.
Exactly, because I could see like an England-Denmark draw, and then I could see also a Serbia-Denmark draw, and then it all of a sudden becomes about how many goals do you beat Slovenia by. Do you know what I mean? That's why it can certainly.
Yeah, and also Slovenia have probably one of the best goalkeepers of the past few years in the world, Jhon Duran. So if you need to beat them, they could probably also sneak maybe a 0-0.
Vescoli up front as well.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
So, I think that an important aspect in this group as well is that we start with Slovenia. We both have the first game in the group against Slovenia, which we should be winning. So if we could start off with 3 points there, we could realistically draw our way through, and we have quite a good record against England as well, where we haven't lost to them in normal time, at least for almost since like 2014-15, I think.
Is the second game against England or is the third game against?
The second game against England.
Oh,
so
wow,
realistically, you're kind of cooking up for a group final against Serbia in Munich.
Again,
but
just because of what Serbia did against Austria, I wouldn't even be totally shocked if Slovenia was an upset.
But they beat Sweden 3-0 in Sweden last test game. But Sweden were terrible as well. I think
Sweden is weird. Their squad is miles better than it was 10 years ago. But 10 years ago, they always went to all the tournaments, and now they can't get a tournament to save their life. I don't understand how. You've got Isak, you've got Gyökeres. I mean, I guess maybe the others are all terrible, but I swear back in the day they had like...
They're terrible, I promise you, they're terrible.
Yeah, I swear back in the day they had like Zlatan and Lustig at right back,
and Kim Källström, and that
exactly.
But I think if you would watch a game, the Denmark-Slovenia game will be quite important because how the manager would decide to play. Last tournament we played terribly against Tunisia, got a 0-0, kind of just got a point, and that's in the end what cost us. So I think if he plays with 3 at the back in that game and we play against Norway, we played very well, played quite offensive. So if we do that, we should realistically go through. But it'll be an interesting game to see as well.
Fair dues. Let's move on to the next group then, because, even if I maybe would make a call for Slovenia, I think you both go for Serbia. So we'll keep it at that. The next group. Let's see if I get outvoted here. I think we all agree France will top this group, right?
Yeah.
Bertram, do you agree as well?
I do.
There you go. So, will either of you vote for Austria in second? Or am I going to be the only one that does that?
Like I told you, I think it's possible. But it's very reliant.
The likelihood is obviously it will be Netherlands.
Yeah, but I think it's possible because on Poland, I don't know much about them, but I know that Lewandowski is injured. I know that one of their best midfielders, Piotrowski, he plays in Bulgaria. So
and
this is not great.
The English right back from Aston Villa.
Matty Cash,
He's injured. He's not in the squad. So
He's not in the squad. Oh, okay. So
there's another one missing. By the way,
and
just
also-
on Lewandowski, he's only confirmed to miss the first game.
Well-
They are supposedly trying everything to get him.
a
fit for-
colleague of mine is Polish, and he said that the entire national media for the past 2 days has been ringing alarm bells and saying that it's a national catastrophe, that Lewandowski could potentially miss the entire group stage. I mean,
That is
it's a
fine.
possibility, and they're
But, like,
panicking like
didn't
hell
he,
over
like,
there.
tear a muscle in his biceps? Like, you're playing football, not handball. Just fucking get on with it, mate. Like, do you know what I mean? But yeah. So that doesn't sound like anybody else is saying Austria second, are they?
I mean,
I put them third.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, let's put them third, but-
I'm fuming. Yeah, okay. I'll give you Netherlands. It is at least it is a democratic vote here. The only thing why I have my doubts over Netherlands are a couple, because you think, oh yeah, they've got Van Dijk, they've got Ake.
who is their coach, by the way?
Well, Ronald Koeman. That's exactly the
wow.
problem. That's why I
Oof.
think we could get them.
Yeah,
Because
you are right, actually. Yeah.
We are
Weren't they
we are the
okay
worst
with him?
nightmare for good teams. Good teams hate playing against us, and that's why for us it's maybe even a good. Obviously, France is maybe that level too good, but Netherlands is exactly the type of opponent where people think we'll lose and I think we'll win, because that's like we beat Italy, for example, last year.
You know what,
the Nations League games.
Lawrence, your first game is against France, and they will look to beat you. I think your schedule is not optimal. I'm just looking at the games. Your second game is against Poland, though. So if you beat Poland, then everything will be decided on the last day of the group stage.
Well, if we don't beat Poland, we might as well pack our
Yeah.
bags and go on, because fucking hell, beat Poland. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, there you go. I'm not letting you guys put Poland third anyway. I'm at least taking that. Come on now. But yeah, it's obviously, if we come third, it's good. We get out the group. But obviously, all the third place teams that make it out, they play against someone that's first.
Yeah.
So the likelihood of us then surviving are already quite slim, unfortunately. So I think if we want to make the quarters, we need to come second. And I think it's possible. And if we had our players fit that we have injured, I would be very adamant that I think we'll come second. But like this, it's very much up in the air, and I understand why anyone not Austrian wouldn't put us second. I get it. Next group is dead as shit. So Belgium top.
Oh,
we
yeah.
all knew. But then what happens after? I've got no fucking idea. I mean, Ukraine.
I'd go
Oh,
with-
mate.
I'd go with Romania and then Ukraine personally.
Oh, mate.
Because I think Ukraine
wasted-
probably best team.
I
But what-
wasted 90 minutes of my life watching Bulgaria-Romania 3 days ago. It was 0-0 with, I believe, 2 shots on target. One was from a saved penalty. So it's the most awful football game I've ever watched. And
That's maybe why they go through.
yeah, Jesus.
Maybe. Let me just quickly bring up, because I heard something about something. I heard a few things about Ukraine yesterday, but don't remember most of it again already. So that's the
But the thing is, they have good players, but
Yeah, they
sometimes
have.
they just struggle as a team.
They have a good midfielder. I forgot his name, but I know he played in Italy. They have Modric. They have Zinchenko.
They've
But-
got Lunin, who
Lewandowski?
obviously played pretty much. all
Yeah.
season
Oh,
with
yeah.
Driven goal.
Yeah.
So they have a good goalie as well.
I think this could be a good tournament. Hopefully, a good tournament for Modric as well.
Well,
could be.
if he doesn't find a way to at least be dangerous against Slovakia and Romania, then we have a problem.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think the thing with Romania I've heard is they're quite, as you said, defensive.
Oh yeah,
which
they're
sometimes through
defensive,
these
yeah.
tournaments just is the way to go through.
that is true.
And
But
they had a
they-
good qualifying campaign.
But that is also true.
a
But then
very
I think
easy
they
qualifying group.
they did a 0-0 with Liechtenstein or Luxembourg also, like 2 days after the match with Bulgaria. So their last 2 games are basically 0-0 with 2 absolutely awful teams. So
And we-
either they're keeping their secrets for the tournament or they will be really bad.
Yeah.
But we almost didn't win against San Marino as well. And I hope we
No,
go through.
I know, but
How on earth did you
Bad.
even do that?
That's the worst game of football I've maybe ever watched. It was terrible. We beat them
not
2-1.
ideal. That not ideal. Yeah, like Jose says it here. They've obviously Ukraine also have Dovbyk, who won La Liga Golden Boot winner. Like he got top goal scorer in La Liga for Girona, and they've
And
got the other
Sankankov.
guy that plays for Girona, Tsigankov, who's basically
Yeah,
they're the
okay.
two. They're the two that make everything happen for Girona, and them two being in the same team internationally, I think that could also be quite. I would put Ukraine second. Bertram, would you as well? Because then we outvote them on this one.
oh no, I
Or
mean
would you go Romania?
I have no idea who's gonna be second. So whatever you guys say, I'm just gonna agree. I have no idea really.
I would probably go Romania second,
Okay,
and then
fair.
Ukraine third.
Go with that. I'm thinking Romania wasn't even at the last Euros, so how good can they be? That's just, I know that's 3 years ago, but that's still my logic.
Was Ukraine there?
Yeah, they were. We played them. Can't remember
They played
what
against
we-
Netherlands as well. Almost
Oh,
beat
wow.
them.
Yeah.
They went.
think
They
they
went
went
out.
out.
They went out in the quarters to England.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, I remember. Okay, yeah.
yeah, because we beat them in the last group game
Yeah.
to go through ourselves, but somehow they then got the like it was so weird. We came second in the group and got the much more, and we got Italy in the round of 16. Ukraine came third and got like some shit team in the round of 16. I'm like, how is that fair? Like we
got
came
Scotland.
second and get Italy, and they get third and get, I can't remember who they played, but someone nowhere near as good as Italy.
Scotland.
Anyway. Was it Scotland? Exactly my point. Do you know what I mean? How is Scotland? Anyway.
No. They got Sweden. I think Sweden. In
And
Scotland.
still the point is not-
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, this is what I don't like about the Euros, since they obviously extended or increased the teams, because the draw for the knockout it's just not fair. Like it all depends which group.
Also, it's not so interesting. I mean, like, there are about 35 countries in Europe, and I think that's if you count Kosovo and some other small nations which no one recognizes. So you can't have a 24.
No one, but yeah.
Okay, you can't have a 24-team tournament for a continent with 35 teams.
Yeah,
I mean,
maybe it's 40 because you got to include like Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan. These
yeah,
countries.
but still, like,
Yeah.
16 was better for sure.
Yeah, no, yeah, but then it's also boring if you go straight to quarterfinals. I do like the round of 16. I mean,
Then
I
play
think
an
it's
extra
better
group game.
92 with 8 teams.
yeah, you could do a two-legged group stages. Could do that instead. But yeah, I mean, like I say, I would probably put Ukraine second, but if you boys put Romania second, off we go. Group F. Again, the first one is pretty clear, I would say. Portugal.
Portugal. Yeah.
Bertram, you agree as well?
Yeah.
Do you at all, Bertram, see Portugal as a potential winner of the whole thing?
I do. I see them as one of the 4 favorites. I think their team is
Who's
very,
the
very
4?
good. I would go with. I'd go with England,
Germany?
France, Portugal, and Germany. I think
Germany.
the thing with Portugal, they have very, very good players in this position. I think they have experienced players as well.
Did you hear what Jose
Silva's,
Mourinho said?
Pepe's.
Jose Mourinho said Portugal, even if they had only the second string team available, they should still try, like, be aiming to win the Euros, even if they had the whole
I
B
think
side.
That could almost be
says a
fair,
lot.
but they played really, really well against Croatia, but lost.
Yeah.
It was very, very weird.
The other day in the last friendly, Ronaldo scored an absolute worldy goal. Like, Ronaldo is weird for them, because last year and at the World Cup, I felt Ronaldo was hampering to Portugal. The fact that he was there was a bit of an issue, but apparently he's now changed his tune a bit, where he's understood and accepted that he's not like at his peak anymore, and that he plays in Saudi Arabia and stuff. So if they use Ronaldo correct, imagine if they use Ronaldo as a super sub. Has there ever been a better super sub in history than Ronaldo?
And also, I'm sure he's very much better rested.
For Jorginho.
He will be a lot better rested now playing in Saudi Arabia than he was after playing for Man United. So you have to take that into consideration. He's playing against literal farmers every week.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see that now in the bracket soon, but I wouldn't be like, I think Portugal semi-finals, I've got them on for at least, if I'm honest. But what about second?
Czech Republic.
My gut is telling me Czechia will come second and not Turkey, even though I know everyone will say it's going to be Turkey. But their last Euros was just so underwhelming that I now will never back them again. So I'd say Czechia, but I understand. Like, who would you pick, Dimitar, coming second?
To be honest, I have a friend who's Turkish, and he told me he's not very optimistic about their performance. But on the other hand, I also don't know almost any Czech players apart from Patrick Schick.
Well,
so
you've got
it's
Souček at West Ham. You've got
Oh,
Kufal at West Ham, the right back.
Okay, then so let's
Olise
go
as
for
well from Leverkusen.
Okay, you guys convinced me. Let's go for.
I can't remember another one though. I will say. Who's that?
I mean, four is not bad.
Solanke,
Actually.
I think.
Did you just have this up on screen, or do you just know this?
He plays for Slavia Prague, if I'm not. No, they have Vaslik from Olympiacos.
Fair enough. I mean, that's why we get Bertram involved, so we find out who the Czechia goalkeeper is. There you go. The one thing I will say is, I touched on this earlier, like the biggest percentage of immigrants in Germany are Turkish people. So these games, pretty much every game for them will be a
Oh
home
yeah,
game.
it's a home game. Yeah, it's a home game. Yeah.
Maybe that gives them that little edge. Obviously, Czechia also borders Germany, so you could maybe.
But they don't have games in Munich. Their games are, I think, in Frankfurt and Dortmund. So they have a little bit of bad luck there, because if Czechia had games in Munich, it would be like Czechia versus Turkey in Munich would be basically home game for both teams.
Yeah,
but it's not.
Yeah.
I don't
know if that potential fan advantage could give Turkey the edge, but
it could.
Who would you pick, Dimitar, second?
I would say the Czech Republic, but you are right with that thing about fans. That's why I also said about Serbia, because they will also have massive fan base in Germany. So many people live here who are Serbian, and if it's a tight game, if it's the 80th minute, if the crowd is on your side, you can pull off an upset. This is possible.
If the first game goes badly for Turkey, the fans could also be a problem after that.
And it's also all over for them, because if I'm not mistaken, let me see, the first game is against Georgia. So if they don't win that, they're automatically.
I didn't even include.
And also Georgia, Turkey is a local derby, because they have a small border. So if they don't win against Georgia, it's going to be riots in Istanbul. I can guarantee you, if they don't beat them.
Although Istanbul is very far away from Georgia.
Yeah, but
But there you go. But then
they are going to riot.
Third, though, like obviously Georgia, they've got Kvaratskhelia, but otherwise, I don't know anyone. So there's actually Mamadashvili, the goalie from Valencia. He's another one I know, but that's
Kvaratskhelia.
Yeah. Well, Kvaratskhelia, obviously from Napoli. Yeah. But the only other one is Mamadashvili.
I think a quick point on the Czech Republic. I think a lot of the players either come from Slavia Prague or Sparta Prague, and they know each other, which has been a good thing. I think their relationship, in a way, isn't as heated as the Turkish teams might be, coming from Fenerbahce and Galatasaray. And as you said, they have Premier League experience with Sufal, Suchek, players in the Bundesliga. Always just very solid.
Yeah, they are solid. So like I say, Turkey in terms of talent, they probably have. Obviously, they've got Arda Güler from Real Madrid. They've got Çalhanoğlu from Inter Milan. Like at the peak players are probably better than Czech's peak players, but I just feel like the collective, I feel like it's going to be better for Czechia. But anyways, we move on then. Proceed to the round of 16. What we now need to do, guys, is from the 6 teams we counted as coming third, we need to pick the 4 that will make it through, which is completely illogical that you just pick this, because this is based on points and goals scored. So yeah, it's a bit weird, because you're not just picking the 4 best teams here, you're almost picking how many points are they likely to pick up
you have to consider in what group they are. So
I'd say the bottom 4, because the 2 top teams have tough groups. Croatia would have to take points off Italy and Spain. Hungary have both Germany and a couple of other games as well.
I think Croatia make it through on the basis that no team beats everyone in that group, so therefore every team has a decent amount of points.
But maybe a lot of draws.
Portugal, when they won the Euros in 2016.
The thing is, last year, I think Portugal, I think, did 3 draws in the group stage.
In 2016, when they won the Euros in the end, they drew every single group game and made it through.
Yes, but that's because they had then a goal difference of 0, which was not negative. So normally, if you win 1 game and lose 2 games, you have a negative goal difference.
Yeah.
So let's say 4 points guarantees you qualification, because there's no way like all of these teams
I
get
think
more than
Croatia get 4 points, because I think they'll beat Albania, they'll get a draw against one of the other 2. Don't you think? I think so. It's Croatia still, guys. They were in the World Cup semi-final again.
I mean, that's true, but the thing is, this is very difficult to call. I think this is why this format makes absolutely no sense in general, because basically predicting everything after the group stage, not that you can predict it correctly anyways, but it's absolute nonsense.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. The thing I'll say is, if we pick Ukraine to come third in their group, I don't think they'll make it through, because don't forget they're with Belgium. None of them are beaten. Well, let me go back a page, I guess.
Well, if Ukraine, basically their first game is against Romania, so if they win the first game, they can draw the last with Belgium. They could get a point, because you have to keep in mind, if a team wins their first 2 games, there's no need for them to win the third game.
Rest in the last game, yeah. They
They will.
Okay, so out of purely being egotistical, I'm picking Austria because I think we'll beat Poland and maybe we'll get a draw against Netherlands or something.
You know what? You can pick Austria, Serbia, Croatia, and Hungary, and we get the old Austro-Hungarian Empire together back again for one last ride.
One last ride, yeah. For something Osmonds, do you know what I mean?
Yep.
I don't know. I
Turkey would be a good shout for beating perhaps
Czechia or something.
Georgia, yeah.
I mean, if Turkey beats Georgia, let's say 5-0, and then they draw against Czech Republic and they finish third somehow, then they would be
if they beat Georgia 5-0, then Czechia would have to beat Georgia by more to even be ahead of them anyway.
Or they get a draw in the last game against Portugal.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Are you okay if we pick these four? I mean, Hungary could make it. It's tough. This is pure.
It's a guessing game. It's a guessing game at this point. Yeah.
Let's pick these four and let's not make it unnecessarily more difficult. All right.
Yeah.
Bertram, are you ready? We've got Germany, Denmark. So now what?
It'll be close. I can't say we'll go through. I would want to, but I realistically can't say we'll go through. I think it'll be quite a lot like the England game where we'll be good, but I think this is quite a tough draw. I don't know where it's being played as well. I hope it's northern Germany, but I don't know. So unfortunately, I think the Danes will bow out, but it depends on how Germany play because they haven't been that impressive these last few tournaments. And it depends with Denmark as well.
I think this game could easily be like extra time, penalties, could be any of that. Absolutely.
But I can't take that again. So let's just say Denmark and move on. I suppose we'll be fine.
There you go. Dimitar, I assume you're probably also picking Germany in this one?
I think, yeah. Although, the thing is, Germany as a squad, I don't think they're that good. So if it goes to penalties, I would very much favor Denmark. But in extra time, I don't think that they could beat Germany. So, yeah.
Better squad depth as well.
Oh, yeah.
Squad depth, of
course. But I think the thing with Germany, they play very centrally, and we defend best centrally as well. So we kind of match them up good in that sense. Unless
also, Denmark is a physical team, so that would be tough against this German team because they are more technical than they have been in the previous years because they have now Musiala. True. They have some other youngsters, so they would try to probably play a bit more fancy football.
Exactly, and they've also chosen not to take someone like Goretzka to give them physicality. I mean, now they've called up Emre Can after Pavlovic. For some reason, he's got tonsillitis and a little bit, not even like super bad, and he's missing the tournament. I don't understand how that's a thing, but yeah, they called up Emre Can, not Goretzka. So make of that what you will. All right, I have to if I'm picking likelihoods, you'll have to go with Germany in this case. Spain, Switzerland. I think Switzerland in the last Euros, did they knock out Spain? No. They knocked out France and then they lost. So Switzerland played France in the round of 16, beat them in penalties, and then they played against penalties again against Spain, and then they lost. So probably Spain. Yeah. But, it's another one of those where there could be a bit of an upset, I reckon, but most likely Spain. Do you agree, guys?
Yeah, I would also say like that. I mean, Switzerland have only good goalkeepers, from what I remember.
Well, they've got a good team. They've got Cher from Newcastle, the centre-backs. They've got, who's the other centre-back? Obviously, Akanji from Man City. Like I say, Xhaka, I was going to say Grimaldo. He's obviously Spanish.
I don't know.
The rest of them is quite old and fading out. That is true. Bertram, you didn't disagree, so I assume you do agree that Spain goes through, yeah?
I would have to, yeah.
There you go. Next one then. Italy, Turkey. Anyone seeing a so-called upset here, or do we think Italy make the quarters?
No, I think it's Italy all the way.
Yeah. Bertram, you as well?
I think Italy as well.
There you go. And then, this is what I mean about us coming third and being a problem. Apparently, if we come third, we might be playing fucking England. But obviously, just to clarify this as well, who you play as the third place team also depends on which third place teams make it through, so that changes.
Yeah, there's a ranking of the third place teams as well. Yes.
Yeah, in terms of the groups like A, B, C, D, E, F. First, it's the first three, and then it's the next three. But then, like I say, it can all change everything. So obviously, if we play against England, we're winning. No, I'm joking. We will obviously get knocked out if we play against England. Unfortunately,
I don't know that exactly. I think
I mean, I'd
Who
love
did-
to
who
say
did-
we win, but I feel like I'm just.
Who did England have in the round of 16 in Qatar? Who did
Sorry?
they have? They had who did they play in the round of 16 in Qatar?
Sweden or no? Or that
In
was
Qatar,
another.
they had England. They had. Was it? I can't even remember who they played in the round of 16. I think the thing with England, they would like to play out the back, but if they play poorly or they play with the bad structure that they did against Iceland, I think Austria could do something. But that's because I might in my head be thinking of the old Austria with the likes of David Alaba and Javier Schlager. So you would have to go England, but I think Austria could upset them depending on. I think if Austria had all of their players, I could see them winning with maybe like a 75-25% chance for England.
By the way, England played Senegal in the round of 16.
Oh wow!
And won 3-0.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
And then
But
they
they
played
haven't been
France
that
and
good
Portugal, where
winning
they
it
obviously lost then.
Yeah, and they didn't play well against the USA either, or
No.
Slovenia.
The thing is, it's Southgate, and he could manage to lose every game, every time.
He could.
So, but
It's just yeah.
logic would
honestly-
dictate that England go
Yeah.
through. But
When going into it, if this actually happened, and I knew, a couple of days beforehand, Austria playing England, I would not be shocked if we beat.
oh yeah, of
because
course.
we are like I said earlier, we are a nightmare team for good teams, because like that's why France is arguably the worst good team for us, because France, as we all know from the last few tournaments, they have the best team, but they don't necessarily play like super attacking football and stuff.
Oh yeah,
So that's why the way we try to counter press and stuff doesn't really work, because we try to press them and then they play one long ball to Mbappe who runs past everyone and scores. So, which is kind of how they beat us every time we played them. This is also how Denmark beat us every time. They sit back, play a long ball to someone quick on the wing, and then we're screwed. It happens every fucking time. But if we have a team that tries to play out from the back, we just steal the ball and score. That happens very often. So yeah, but I think if we're doing likelihoods, we're probably going to have to pick England here, aren't we? Portugal, Croatia then. Is it probably the biggest round of 16 game, I would say, in terms of names that we've got here. But I would
go Portugal in the end.
Yeah. Would you also pick Portugal, Dimitar, or would you disagree? Even if you've now been outvoted anyway.
If this happens, it's going to be very tough to call. I would say probably penalties decide this one, but if you guys go with Portugal, I'm fine with that. Yeah.
Fast. It's definitely a tight one for sure. But it's just like, I mean, this is a thing one would have been thinking that about Croatia for years and years, but surely at some point they will have to get like tired. Like Modric is old as shit. Even Brozovic is old now. Like even Kovacic ain't young anymore. Yeah,
well,
I mean,
the thing is, they have
know.
the team spirit, and the team spirit and team cohesion win much more than raw talent and uncoordinated football. Like
I agree.
Especially in international football, and
I agree.
They
but
could
surely
perform.
This generation of Croatian players that has to come to an end of success at some point.
It has, but
it hasn't yet, so it may not still.
But the thing is, they didn't manage to win anything, so the hunger is still there. So even though they know, okay, we're all past it, when we were at our prime, we didn't win anything, so they still want to try. It's not like they won 2 World Cups and now they're just like in the glory days. So
No. Yeah, but for Croatia, they have 4 million people. For them, even making
but the hunger is there, and sometimes if you have that hunger and if you get a bit of luck, I mean, I could very well see them in a semi-final again. I'm not saying they should or could win it, but going far, it's not that tough.
Well.
Yeah, there you go. I do agree. And now we get to the reason why I really, really, really hope Austria gets second. Because then we could be playing Romania, and I'm backing us to make the quarters. But obviously, if it's Netherlands, Romania, surely we all think Netherlands beat them.
Yeah.
There you go. It's quite a simple one, quite a quick one. Belgium, Serbia. Could
Belgium
Serbia cause an upset here? Maybe. But I think in likelihood, Belgium. Belgium is a weird one anyway. Obviously, they've still got De Bruyne, but they've not got any of the Hazards anymore.
They have a better manager now. Or at least they don't have Martinez now.
So that Tedesco is a better manager, man? I don't know.
He's got them playing quite well.
I mean, Martinez Martinez, I think, was worse than Southgate, because Martinez did worse with that Belgium team that Southgate did with that England team.
I agree. But they were also unlucky, because in that 2018
That
World
is
Cup,
true. But
they
still,
could have easily won that game against France, and then they probably win.
No,
and
England could have also easily won against Italy on penalties, but they didn't.
They didn't. Yeah, absolutely. It's like obviously Austria was in a qualifier group with Belgium, and we nearly came top, which would have maybe made our group a bit easier as well. But unfortunately, in the away game, we got a 1-1 draw against them. So you'd think, okay, in the home game we can get something. Unfortunately, then in the home game, Alaba and Arnautovic and half of our midfield were all injured at the same time. And then we were playing quite well. And then in the space of 12 minutes in the second half, went from 0-0 to 3-0 down. And we were like, flip's sake, because they just counted us every time. And then we got back to 3-2 with 2 minutes to go. And we're like, nearly got still a draw out of it, but then lost 3-2 in the end. So, Belgium is decent, but nowhere near as good anymore as they were. And I don't understand why people still see them as dark horse favorites or whatever. I don't think they're anywhere near that personally. But only time will tell if I'm right or not. And then next one is also pretty straightforward, I would say. France are definitely beating Czechia if that does happen. Going to the quarterfinals, now is where things get spicy because all of these
now
games
it looks like
spicy.
A proper Euros.
Yeah, now it's very spicy. Italy, Germany. Bacham, I'll go with you first. Who are you picking?
In this game, I'd back the hosts and go Germany. I think it's very, very equal in this game. I think both teams have. I would say Germany would have the better players. But I think the fans we talked about before. Individual talent, yeah. I think managerial-wise as well, which would be one of Italy's biggest strengths. I think.
But those two have two of the best managers.
He'll be matched against Nagelsmann, who tactically is up there as well. And I think the fact that they're home, I think will beat them, and I think they'll also be able to attack Italy centrally. And I think this game will be much easier than the Denmark game, to be honest with you. I would say. Yeah.
I actually agree with that. Dimitar, do you also agree that Germany will beat Italy?
I mean, basing it on pure logic, yeah. I have it in me to believe that Italy could either go out in the group stage or win it, or win the whole thing, basically with the same probability, because they're just like so unpredictable.
No way they win it again. Imagine they win it again after twice not even making the World Cup.
I mean,
the Euros look like a laughingstock.
I mean, of course, the logic says Germany win. I'm just programmed to never count Italy out, personally.
No, absolutely. And obviously, 2006, the last tournament that Germany hosted, who knocked them out? Italy. But obviously, Italy also was very different. It had like Cannavaro and Nesta and Buffon.
Well, Germany also had some decent players back then as well.
True, but not like Cannavaro and Del Piero and Totti and all these lot. Like, Italy had a banging team at the time, to be fair. I mean, they won it in the end. So, Portugal, Netherlands. Now, I would still hope that this could end up being Austria here because we could play Romania after coming second. But I think whether they play Netherlands or Austria, I think Portugal surely make it through. Surely, like Netherlands.
Probably,
if Netherlands had a good manager, I'd back them to do more because they have a good squad. But they just don't have enough good attackers. Like, their best attacker is basically Dumfries. You know what I mean? Like maybe Frimpong. Koeman may not even play Frimpong. He may play Dumfries over Frimpong. They could be doing that. And I've realized, by the way, I've told the guys, it's not going to be that long of a stream. Don't worry about it. 2.5 hours here for. So sorry, guys. But yeah, we're nearly done. But yeah, I mean, Dimitar, do you even pick Portugal, or do you actually think Netherlands will make through?
Thing is, both have bad managers, in my opinion. But yeah, let's go for Portugal. One last hurrah for Ronaldo.
Yeah, true. One last hurrah. Bertram, who do you pick?
I think defensively, you look at the fact that they have Van de Ven and they have Van Dijk. I think Portugal could, just as well have Ruben Dias, Ignacio. So defensively, they're both equal. I think Portugal's attacking lineup is better than the Netherlands. Leao,
better goalkeeper as well.
Jota, come on, a better goalkeeper, better squad depth as well. So I think here you would have to say, based on the attacking qualities, I'd go Portugal.
Yeah, but then again, obviously, Netherlands only lost to Argentina on penalties in the World Cup, so they're not awful either. Clearly, Belgium, France, 4 years ago, obviously, well, 6 years ago, I guess, 2018 World Cup. This was the best game of that tournament, even though if not in final result or whatever, it wasn't that exciting. But in terms of talent on the pitch,
Until France scored, it was very good. After France scored, they started playing like absolute bitches.
yeah, it's true. Actually, maybe the best quality game of that World Cup was maybe actually Belgium against Brazil the round before, maybe.
Yeah, it was quite good as well.
That was a really good game. That was peak Hazard, that game. And I'm not sure if we ever saw Hazard at that level for Chelsea as he was in that game for Belgium against Brazil. He was unbelievable that day. But yeah, I'll pick France. Bacham, would you pick France?
I would as well. I think based on the top quality, Belgium missing Courtois as well. I think you'd have to go look to France.
True. Which is weird, by the way, because Courtois did play the Champions League final. So he's still a goalkeeper. Why can't he play the Euros? Bit weird. But anyway, do their own thing. Dimitar, I assume you're agreeing, yeah?
Yeah. I don't see why Belgium. I mean, I would love for Belgium to win something because I still think that those players deserve something. I mean, even Lukaku and De Bruyne, they're still good enough to be in the conversation for winning trophies, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's too late for them.
Yeah, and like I said, obviously now, I mean, they still have Vertonghen, but Vertonghen is 37 and he still starts, so that tells you really everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, move on to the last quarterfinal, another huge one, England, Spain. Now, this one really is a 50-50, if you ask me.
I'd go Spain
because
personally.
You would go Spain, would you?
I would go Spain. I'd say they have a better squad.
I agree.
Nah.
For me, the difference is Kane. And that's why I'd probably pick England.
I mean, I don't think Spain have anywhere near the same level as England. I mean, England have Rice and Bellingham. Then you have Foden, Saka, and Palmer. I don't think there are Spanish players who.
Yeah, but does Spain have Rodri, Pedri, Gavi?
The thing is, Pedri and Gavi in Barcelona were very bad this year. Rodri, I get it. He's one of the best CDMs in the world. But Bellingham and Rice, I think, could beat the midfield of
the thing is,
Pedri
they're
and
not
Rodri.
playing Bellingham and Rice as a 2. They're playing Bellingham as a 10. And then
I
Foden
think,
on the right.
I don't know if they're that much better or if we just know more about Rice, for example. Or, you look at the wingers. I just think sometimes, in these international tournaments, players that you don't know.
No, that is true. But Foden was really impressive in the back end of this season. I think Saka is also very good as long as he's not limping on the pitch. And Palmer, he may be 21 or 22, but he has the experience of a much older player. So, I mean, I think England should be able to beat every single team apart from maybe France. And they could also beat France. It's not impossible. The thing with England is that they have a manager who could not tactically outclass anyone else to save his life.
Can I make a statement now? I think managers in international tournaments football are drastically overvalued and overrated. The importance of a manager in this kind of, like, when you get to the important knockout stages later on, is 95% about.
Can I just give one argument against what you're saying? In the final of the previous Euros, Southgate decided that 2 players who are 21 and 19 respectively would go on the pitch in the 119th minute to take 2 penalties. And basically those 2 players missed their penalties and lost the game, which was the first example I have ever seen in my life where a manager loses a penalty shootout. Because played one 19-year-old, one 21-year-old. In the 119th minute, I think both of them did not even touch the ball before shooting penalties. So I can bet my life on it that Spalletti, that Deschamps, that Nagelsmann would never do such a thing. I mean, Nagelsmann would probably not even dare put Thomas Müller on in the 120th minute to take a penalty without having kicked the ball, because Nagelsmann has one brain cell in his head, and he knows that sometimes it's better to have a player who actually has had contact with the ball to strike penalties. And
then Chini made tactical changes as well to make sure that Italy dominated by putting some more wingers on as well. So he, in a sense, almost got them back to the final as well.
I agree with every word you've just said there, but I think the fact that England were in this position in the first place, where they were 1-0 up, in a position to bottle it, was because Italy were the ones that initially didn't turn up because Italy in
No.
the first half an hour of that final were terrible. And that's why England
Yeah.
were so strong in comparison. England should have never been so strong. Like Italy was so good in every game of this Euros until the final. In the final, they were like a shadow of themselves nearly. I don't know if it was the pressure or what it was.
Well, before England scored, I feel in that game they were completely nullifying Jorginho. And the second that England scored, they went 10 yards back, and
They scored
Jorginho
like
suddenly
6
had.
minutes in already.
But Jorginho suddenly had so much space when England just got back because they scored the goal early, but like around the 30th, 40th minute, England just went back and they left the ball to Italy. And when
But
you
you
leave
think
the
that's
ball
a-
to Jorginho,
You actually believe that's a Southgate telling them?
no, that
I
is
think
not.
that's the
But
players crumbling under the pressure. And
but
that's what I mean.
I believe that Southgate is just incapable of making game-changing decisions during a game. Because
I
let's
think that as well.
say
No,
England
I
plays
agree with
Serbia, and
But don't get me wrong.
Serbia score a wonder goal, and England need one goal to score. Southgate will just panic.
Yeah.
He cannot make tactical adjustments. Like, I'm not saying that every other coach can, but for example, Deschamps has years of experience.
But does Deschamps make a tactical change then, or does he just have Mbappe and Griezmann?
Well, yeah, but the thing is, you can have Mbappe and Griezmann and then substitute someone behind them to change the formation to get them in more dangerous areas.
Sure.
Like,
It's
Southgate-
it's not like I fully disagree. And I'm not saying obviously the manager has relevance to it.
No.
He picks the
you
team
are
that
right.
has to-
Managers are not as relevant, but in those clutch moments where you need to change something in the perfect moment, if you have a good manager, it's always an advantage. I mean, if you look at the managers who won the recent tournaments, it's no wonder who they are. I mean, Mancini won the last Euros. The previous Euros was Portugal with their manager, who I think was relatively decent, and also he had Ronaldo coaching next to him for the entire game. You had also Deschamps win the last World Cup, and he also got to the next final as well. Deschamps also got to Euro final, against Portugal in
But
2016.
doesn't everyone think Deschamps is a terrible manager? I think that anyway.
I think he has enough
Proven.
experience to know what to do in international tournaments.
International. That's
Yeah,
that's my
yeah.
point. Like if Pep Guardiola, Jose Mourinho, Jurgen Klopp, all these lot were managing in the Euros, yeah, sure, then the manager would have much more of an impact. But the type of managers that they're much bigger players than managers in this tournament, with maybe the exception of Germany.
No,
with Nagelsmann.
you are right, but also how many top tier managers would decide to stick with Giroud for the 2018 World Cup, even though he did not make a single shot on target? I mean,
No, not
there are
many would.
certain decisions which you can risk on them, and if they pay off, you're a brilliant manager. If you fail, you're a failure. But I mean, Southgate could not even muster something like that.
No, he couldn't. No, absolutely. I'm not debating that by any means. I'm just saying.
But you are right. They play
England
less of a role in
could
general.
easily win the tournament despite Southgate because of how good of a team they have.
Well, we shall see.
The other way around. Yeah, no, I'm not saying they will because the players always, because like what you said earlier, if Serbia score a screamer and they need a goal back, this shouldn't even be about Southgate. These players that they have should be good enough to find a way to get 2 goals anyway, regardless of what the manager does. Like, they have so much superior players.
That is the truth.
It's like when Chelsea lose to fucking Sheffield United. Yeah, we can all lose our fucking minds about Poch, but the fact of the matter is, we're playing Sheffield United. It's like the players should be good enough to win no matter what the manager does.
That is true, yeah.
So, yeah, that's all I'm saying. But, yeah, you picked Spain, Bertram.
I would go England. I just looked at the Spain team. They're lacking quality in some positions. I would go England. Yeah.
Okay, fair dues. Well, then that makes it simple. I was going to say I'm going to ask like.
Isn't Iago Aspas still in the Spain squad, or am I mistaken?
Probably.
I don't think he is.
Okay. Who are the other strikers then?
Let me quickly check this. So for
Morata, probably Iglesias and stuff like
so
that.
they have Morata, Joselu, Dani Olmo, Ferran Torres, and Jesus Navas.
But are they all in the squad?
Yes.
Well, Jesus Navas. I mean, Olmo. I saw a video. I think it was Cesc Fabregas, and he was asked about who he thinks will be like the surprise or the best player at the tournament, and he said Dani Olmo. So that was an interesting pick.
Also, Gavi is not even in the squad. The midfielders are Mikel Merino, Fabian Ruiz, Rodri, Nico Williams. I don't think he has a midfielder, but anyway. Zubimendi, he's relatively good. Pedri and Oyarzabal. So
Oyarzabal is also more of a winger, but Merino plays for Real Sociedad. I think it's pretty decent there. And who was the other one you said?
Fabian Ruiz.
He's
Zubimendi, Pedri, Oyarzabal.
Is he?
He was in Napoli, but I have no idea where he's.
I think
now.
he's at PSG now, unless he
PSG.
left them again. But yeah, there you go. All right, the last ones, and then we'll wrap this one up. Germany, Portugal.
I think
Portugal.
I will go for a Germany-England final in general because I think it's gonna be funny.
We don't know. We don't want to hear about all these dodgy songs that will come out if that happens.
I would generally go for the opposite final because I think France have more quality over England and Portugal has more quality over Germany, in my opinion.
I'm
But
picking
Germany has
France
lost
over England
semi-finals
as
at home
well.
before.
That's for me. I don't think in a head-to-head England beat France. I just don't think that happens because you said it earlier. France have a better manager.
No, for sure.
And they have the better game-deciding manager, and their team has experienced winning a tournament. And I think the pressure is dealing with the pressure of those kind of games is the big deal. And I think France will just be better suited to that than England.
Maybe England get lucky and Southgate gets a red card in the quarterfinals. That's what I'm betting
glory.
Yes.
The other one is super difficult for me. Like if this was, say, the tournament was in randomly Italy, I would say Portugal win this. But because it's in Germany,
thing is, Germany I think they will not have a home advantage because in Germany, no offense to anyone German who is watching, but
if they make it to the semis, they will.
Yeah, but apart from the hardcore ultras in the stadiums in Germany, it's not that great of an atmosphere. I mean, if you go to Dortmund, it's banging every week. But if you go to the Allianz Arena and if you're in the opposite side to the ultras, it's like in a theater, bro. I mean,
but that is Bayern though. Like that's like using Man United.
Yeah,
but also only good half of the time. Like the fans, if you compare in size of clubs, because I mean. Half of the great atmosphere clubs in Germany nowadays play second division.
That may be true, but also there are many immigrants in Germany, also from Portugal, people from France, people from Belgium. I mean, there are people from all over the world here. It's very multicultural. So I think that every team participating in these Euros could have a big support from national fans who are just living there and who just go there to support the team. So even though it's in Germany, I think a lot of nations could feel a home advantage in some games.
I just think it's a weird one because there is a way Germany, who did they play in the round of 16? Denmark. There is a way in which they lose this. I don't think there's a way in which they don't make it out the group, but there's a way they lose this.
Oh, yeah.
But if they also beat Italy and then they've made it here, I think the Germany squad in ability is so good that if they are confident, and if you make it to the semi-finals, you will be confident, then we can see a Germany that we haven't seen since 2014 because they've not even made it out the groups in the last two World Cup. They were knocked out in the round of 16 in the last Euros. So we've not seen an actually confident Germany you will know this expression, Dimitar, you won't, Bertrand, but in German there's an expression that Germany are a Turniermannschaft, which is like a team that's not necessarily always that good, but turns up in tournaments. And I think that obviously hasn't been the case for Germany in a few years now, but that's always the stigma about Germany. It was at least until recently. The question is just, can they get that out of themselves again or not? So I don't know. You've picked Portugal, didn't you, Bertram? I'll flip a coin.
Thing is, you are completely right.
Sorry?
You are completely right. One thing I would say that Germany, if Nagelsmann sticks with Havertz as a striker throughout the tournament, basically every game is going to be a coin flip. Because if Havertz has a good game, he can contribute. But if he plays like he did in Chelsea, like he did at Chelsea at the back end of 2023, they could lose to every single team because he can miss everything that they feed him. And he can just completely wreck the entire team mood.
They could. But if he does super bad, they could just start Füllkrug, who is not amazing, but still decent.
I doubt that Nagelsmann would dare bench Havertz. He may substitute him in a game, but
you might blame
I don't know.
Let me flip a coin. All right.
Okay.
Germany is heads. Portugal is tails. We'll just see what Siri comes up with. Hey Siri, flip a coin. It's tails. Hope you can see. is tails. So tails is Portugal. So sorry, Germany. Unlucky. Even Syria doesn't like you. So then we have a final between Portugal and France. What's the word? Second time round. Yeah, the rematch, I guess, of the 2016 Euros final, of course, which bafflingly, I've rarely seen a less deserved final victory than that Portugal win over France in that Euro 2016 final. Like, honestly.
They had their chances as well, to be fair, Portugal.
They did, but the goal that went in, man, like, I'm fuming if Kepa concedes that, let alone fucking Lloris. Do you know what I mean? Like, he rolled the ball essentially from 25 yards. How can you?
I remember the second that they went a man down in that game, I bet something like 20 euros that they're gonna win, and I won like I think 300 euros.
That is nice. I mean, I didn't put money on it, but I said the second Ronaldo came off, now they're winning. Because obviously Ronaldo got injured, and then all of a sudden they looked like a capable football team again. Because until that point in that final, they were terrible. But then as soon as Ronaldo was off, they were decent.
Do you guys remember the giant moth invasion?
Yeah,
that was insane.
That was funny. I'm picking France because I think also because this is a remake of that final, I think a bit of revenge and stuff. So yeah, I'm picking France.
I do as well.
I'm also willing to bet that if France make it to a final, they could beat every single one of the teams that they could come up against. Okay. So, because they have that big team mentality.
Oh, loading. Didn't realize what's happening now.
Imagine if we got it spot on here, lads.
Imagine. Well, I'd be miserable because I really still hope Austria comes second.
And Denmark would have to win for us. We would have to put Denmark to win.
Yeah. I mean, hey, I'll take Denmark winning. I like Denmark. Except when you play us. Like I said, you're always too good against us, so that pisses me off.
Lucky, very lucky.
Press download, couldn't I? Rather than screenshotting it. But here we are. So we're predicting France as the winners of Euro 2024. Let's see where they come through. I'm very excited. I'm going to try to watch as many games as I can. Like I said, I yesterday got confirmation that I will go, or 2 days ago, that I will go to the Austria versus Netherlands game in Berlin. So I'm very much looking forward to that as well. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're still here, and there's not that many of you, like I say, it's been too long of a stream, and the topics are as they are. But if you're still here, I appreciate you very, very much. Hit that like button if you haven't done so already. Subscribe if you haven't done that either. Please do check out Bertram and Dimitar down in the description below if you haven't done so either. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for watching. Obviously about Chelsea, let's see if we turn out with Olise or not. Up to Austria, up to Chelsea, and we will up to Denmark, hey, up to Bulgaria. Why not? Unfortunately, they're not here, but up to Bulgaria. And yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you next time.